Do a curse on it. He cut his budget.
We're going to start with the invocation from Pastor Jan Reinhardt.
Creator God, we thank you for all the blessings you have provided for us. We thank you for the freedom that we have to be able to be together like we are tonight. It is a blessing to live in a wonderful place that we call Wakulla County. The beauty of your creation can be seen in so many ways, whether it be in the waterfront, the beach, the forest, the hometown atmosphere in many of our communities. Lord, I pray that you will be with these elected leaders in our county as they hold the power in their hands to make decisions that will be beneficial to all of the residents here. We thank you for this fine leadership as well as the leadership which takes place to the state and national levels of government as well. We pray for our military and their families. We pray for those residents who are struggling right now with great needs in their homes, such as food and clothing, and for those who celebrate the holidays in their own way and the need that they have for gifts for their children. Be with this board and county commissioners as they meet tonight. Guide their talk and decision-making as they do what is best for our county and all of its constituents. Hear our prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add one announcement, please.
Okay.
I'd like to add one announcement, too, as well.
Okay. I have a couple to add myself this evening.
Mr. Chairman, number 9, which is listed on your agenda, the final document, we've not received that, so it'll be brought back to you in January.
Okay, so number 9 will be tabled. Any other changes to the consent agenda?
Also, I'm sorry, under awards announcement, I would like to pull the announcement of the new fire chief. We kind of got the cart ahead of the horse there, so I'd like to pull that from the agenda. We'll bring it back.
Okay. Any other changes? Now I hear a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
All right. Motion and moved. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Moving on to our first public hearing, to request board approval to conduct the public hearing and consider adopting the proposed ordinance establishing the Wakulla County Airport Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item requests the board to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance that would establish the Wakulla County Airport Committee as directed when the board considered the advertisement for this item. We have revised the ordinance to create a 7-member airport committee board. The 7 members will be 3 appointed by the county, and that resolution will be coming back to you at a subsequent meeting. There will be 2 appointed by the Tarpine Homeowners Association. In the original ordinance, it was 1 appointed by Tarpine and 1 appointed by the Wakulla County Airport Advisory Group. Wakulla County Airport Advisory Group was sort of ad hoc, so it was going to be difficult to tell who could make the official appointment. So we, in order to avoid a possible problem with that, we changed that to have 2 Tarpine members. There are still going to be a member appointed by the Panacea Waterfronts and a member appointed by the Wakulla County Tourist Development Council. For a total of 7 members. They will serve staggered terms, and they will assist the county in the operation and the improvement of the airport.
I'll make a motion to conduct the public hearing and approve the ordinance establishing the Wakulla County Airport Committee. Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Are there any citizens to be heard? Is there any discussion?
I think the acronym is pretty good. WAAG WAG.
What?
Commissioner Arts?
Yes, I would like to propose a minor change as a friendly amendment, if possible. First, I'm glad to see that we provided some recommended skill sets for some of the board appointees, so that one of our appointees will be someone with relevant management experience, and also one of our appointees, one of the county's appointees, will have financial accounting or budgeting experience, since we anticipate getting funds to improve the airport. But I noticed that the person with the management experience is appointed initially for a term of 1 year. And our third appointee, who is pretty unspecified, who's unspecified in terms of skills or background, and who may be a Wakulla County employee, is to be appointed for an initial term of 4 years. And I would like to switch those two. And my thinking is, if we have a good person with management experience, it would be good to keep them on for continuity for the first 4 years, if possible. And if we put a county employee in, I think there's going to be some awkwardness with sunshine rules, and we're actually going to end up with 2 county employees having to be committed to this group. So I would rather have the flexibility with that 1 year appointment to then better assess what we need after 1 year, and could switch off a county employee or bring in somebody with a different set of skills. So if the board's amenable, I would like to just change the lengths of the terms for those 2 people.
David? I'd like to note that even if it's a 1 year term, I don't have a problem with it, but they're automatically, if nobody new is appointed, they keep serving in that capacity, I think, without having to be. But I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's less of an issue for the 1 year person who can stay around, but if we've got somebody on the staff for 4 years, and it really is problematic in terms of sunshine rules and communication.
How would the sunshine law be violated, just out of curiosity, for employees?
Well, okay, anyone on this group cannot communicate about airport business outside of those meetings. And then that means who's going to be, if other members of the airport committee want to communicate with somebody on staff relevant to this, they can't communicate with that county employee who's on the board and a voting member, because that would be a violation of sunshine laws. So then they have to communicate with another county staff person. Are you following? You understand the issue?
It's true. I mean, that appointee does not have to be a staff person. They may be a staff person, but this committee will be a public committee in the sunshine, and so if they're going to talk about matters which may come back before that committee at a future date, they would be limited in the same manner that this board is.
They couldn't talk to each other, but they could talk to.
Sure.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what the 2 county employees may get in a conflict, but they couldn't talk to each other. I got you.
There won't be 2 county employees on there.
No, it's the county employee who's on this board. Anyone else on that committee who wants to talk to somebody from the county can't. So I just think if we're going to put a staff member on, maybe do it on a trial 1 year and see whether it's a problem or not.
I basically consider the airport pretty much as a private airport. I don't see any way that the airport, with whatever committee that we get, is going to make any money. And if it's down there and the county's putting money into it, it should at least pay its own way. And I want to make sure that this committee doesn't obligate the county to match in funds in anything that they do. If they can get grants to do whatever, and the county doesn't have to put matching funds into it, then it doesn't matter to me. But I'm just not going to be happy if we start spending county money on that airport. It's a nice little airport, and I hope this committee can do something down there to generate revenue. If we're gonna support it, and we are with, I guess we got $2,500, $3,000 a year going into it, but the only people right now that it's serving is the people who have their planes down there, and I have no problem with that as long as I'm not spending county money on it. But I want to make sure that this committee does not obligate the county for grants that require matching or something that would tie us in to have to repay a grant.
They don't have the authority to do that. Any grants would have to come back to the county.
Okay.
Did you take Commissioner Arts' suggestion as a friendly amendment?
I did.
Okay. Perfect. Is there any further discussion? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Our second public hearing tonight is the request board approval to conduct the public hearing and consider adopting proposed ordinance setting forth the tourist development plan. Pam Portwood.
Good evening. I didn't prepare a lengthy presentation because we've presented this several times over at several different public meetings. But I brought the strategic plan that's Jessica has up on the screen, and it's the same one that was presented to you at the workshop. It's the goals that are listed in that plan are the goals that are listed in the ordinance proposed for adoption. And so I'm just here, as well as several of our TDC members, to answer any questions that you have.
I'll make a motion to approve to conduct a public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance setting forth the tourist development plan.
Second. All right. We have two citizens to speak to this issue. Mr. Hugh Taylor.
Thank you, Commissioners. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. I think the TDC plan is a mess for a number of reasons. We've been told there's always been a plan, except nobody can find it. And this is one place where I strongly believe government money, which is our tax money, we're authorizing taxes to fund tourist development. And this is the one place where an organization should be run like a business. It has to be used judiciously, efficiently, and benefit the people and businesses it was designed for. And not a small group, not one person. If this were a private plan, I don't believe it would fly for those folks with business backgrounds. If I came to you in private business with such a plan, you would probably boot me out the door. You would want to know exactly what I was going to do, what my budgets would be, and how much I was going to charge. And none of that's there. It's fairly loose. I've heard it has to be loose. It may not comply with state statute, which does not seem to concern anybody. The prioritized uses of revenues that are in this plan seem to leave out specifics and line items, namely director compensation. My personal view is that director's compensation should be clearly explicated, and benefits and overhead attributable to the director should be somewhere in the 10 to 15% range. However, it's 66% of the promotional budget range and 50% of the total projected budget. And this does not include travel and other soft expenses. And then we have, how can the TDC, basically in this short and long-term plan document, and this is in quotes now, develop short-term and long-range strategic plan for tourist development, and then spend $1,500 in doing what this plan is supposed to do. Specifically, it's a snake biting its own tail. And metrics, I know Commissioner Arts has been concerned with measurements. How are we going to measure success? I think you're going to pass this thing, and if you do pass this thing, you should be aware of what you are doing, what public resources you have, and accountability. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Second speaker is Victor Lambu.
Thank you, Commissioners. First, I would like to commend the Tourist Council and the Director for coming up with a plan for your consideration. However, I believe it's only start and they need to go much further. I know it's not easy to get a plan. The laws say you have to do everything. They get in the way for a lot of things that we'd like to do, and it makes life pretty complicated. However, Florida Statute 125 states, the plan set forth the anticipated net tourist development tax revenue derived by the county for the 24 months following the levy of the tax, and that it shall list in order of priority of the proposed uses of the tax revenue by specific project or special use as the same as authorized under Section 5, so forth, and that the plan shall include the approximate cost or expense allocation for each project or special use. Let me emphasize, it says for specific project or special use. Now the plan is so general, I think it would take a very large, huge heap of faith to say that it covers specific projects or specific use. For example, one of the uses is to expand advertising and marketing through national, state, regional, and local partnership, but it gives no details. The other says how used to create promotional programs and materials that will create awareness and attract targeted markets to visit Wakulla County, but it gives no specifics on it. And I think the law clearly states that you need specific. Now these are all worthwhile doing, and I'm certainly for it. But it's a huge stretch of the imagination to believe anything as general as the provision is a specific project or special use. Now they have it, but they should put it down in there. Florida statute also lists various things that the tourist tax money can be used for, and then states any use of the local option tourist development tax revenues collected pursuant to this section for a purpose not expressly authorized by paragraph so forth, this subsection is expressly prohibited. Now the plan states that 3%, or the item 3 of the plan states 3% of the tax will be used to educate the citizens of Wakulla County on the potential financial impact to our local economy of nature and heritage-based tourism. I can't find that the law anywhere says that's allowable use. Now, I do agree that's a very important thing, and the county should maybe be doing that, but I don't think it's authorized in the law. Commissioners, I recommend that the Tourist Development Council, or you direct them to go back to the drawing board and flesh out the specific projects and specific uses that the tax money will be used for, as required by Florida statute. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are our only citizens to speak tonight. I'd like to take this opportunity to point out, if you'd like to speak tonight on any item, please fill out a card and turn it in up here before the item is called. Are there any discussions from commissioners?
I have a few comments.
Okay, Commissioner Arts.
First, I appreciate everybody who participated in the workshop we had on the Tourist Development Council. I thought that was very informative and useful for me. So one of the things that was said by a number of the citizens was about the kind of lack of detail or specificity in the plan. And I had a conversation with Pam Portwood afterwards, who explained that when we're talking about the tourist development plan, we aren't just talking about this set of 4 goals and objectives which form the basis for this ordinance, but that the Tourist Development Council also has a work plan, an annual work plan, action plan, and a budget. And that if you look at those things as a whole, she doubts that some of the people would still be thinking that this plan is not really a plan. And it's unfortunate we didn't look at those in our workshop. Apparently that was presented at a presentation to CCAL, though, and I had volunteered to help disseminate those if people would like to see all of those documents. So anyway, that was informational for me, and I thought it might be helpful for citizens to know that. My only other suggestion is, once it became clear to me how these items in the ordinance relate to the goals and objectives, I kind of wish it was in here, that it stated goal 1 or it has the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4, but even if after the statement, if it had in parentheses goal 1 or examples of goal 1 or examples related to goal 1 include, because it helps people understand, I think, the linkage between those statements and what's actually in the plan. So I don't know if that would be a minor change to add that if the board would be willing to do that. But
is that considered a minor change?
I'm not sure I understand what you want to add, so I can't.
Not either.
Just the word goal?
Yeah, to each of the 4 sections, somewhere put in a goal.
Then does that translate back to your action plan? I mean, is that okay? I mean, that's if you guys want to have the ordinance amended to add the word goal.
Motion, that's fine.
I think
Considered friendly.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Then we have a motion to approve to conduct the public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance setting forth a tourist development plan. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Lastly, our third public hearing for the evening is request board approval to conduct the public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance regarding special events and alcohol permitting. Heather?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are requesting that the board conduct a public hearing and then consider the ordinance that is before you on special events and alcohol permitting. You all have seen this before. Some minor changes have been made to it. If you'd like me to, at the pleasure of the board, I can walk you through section by section, or I can just generally touch upon the major changes that it makes to your code.
I'll make a motion to get things going. I'd like to make a motion we approve to conduct the public hearing and adopt the proposed ordinance minus section 11, and this is the part we can talk about, regarding special events and alcohol permitting. For basically, that would allow the chamber to do what they want to do over there for functions and whatever, but it would take out allowing people to serve alcohol at the parks at special events. I can't see any compelling reason to do that. I do understand where the chamber's coming from, though. I think that accomplishes what they want, and we'll just leave the parks like they are.
I follow Randy on that same thing, basically. If we can make the change to accommodate just the old courthouse, and I'd like to make one more change. I'd like for David to be the person, not the Parks and Rec director. I'd like for David to be the person who approves the permitting. Okay. And yeah, if we can restrict it just to the old courthouse.
Actually, Jerry, it says the old courthouse, I think, the community center, the old jailhouse, and was there something else? Was the welcome center in there? If it's not, I'd like to add it in there.
Okay,
it says buildings, generally. It says buildings.
Hold on. Let me read you the list. And we need a second. Was that a second, Jerry, to the motion?
If it accommodates what I just said, that would be a second.
Okay. Hold on. Let me give you the list. I'm going to scroll down here.
But I don't want to get it out in the county at all events and whatever.
If you remove section 11, what section 9 would allow under a caterer's permit, the Wakulla County Community Center, Wakulla County Visitor Center, the old jail, old courthouse, the extension office, and I've heard talk about the Panacea Women's Center, which is not specifically listed in here.
What about the boardrooms?
I've not heard
I think
about
it left open for any building, I believe.
Well, we need to discuss that, but
a building could be it could be a pavilion at a park. So if you don't want it at parks, then we need to.
Jerry, if you're all right with it, I'm all right with it. With what she just delineated out, those specific buildings, I think that accomplishes at least 99% of what the whole intent of this was, in my mind.
Did you want to include the women's center?
What I would like to do is first to have the attorney go through the ordinance, because I know there are people here who really don't even understand what's being proposed, and I think it would be helpful if we just went through it.
If we skip section 11, that takes a huge...
Well, but I would go through that too, just so people know what we're taking out, what you're proposing to take out.
Hey, it's a good suggestion. Heather, why don't you go over it for us?
Okay, I'm going to skip sections 1 through 4 because they're not very substantive. They just changed to reference the correct state agency that is in charge of issuing temporary permits. Section 5 does not change the distance requirements or allow any changes that would have permanent alcohol establishments within 1,000 feet of churches, schools, or playgrounds, but it does include the caveat that if you do give one of these temporary permits, those can occur within 1,000 feet of these entities. Section 6 that is not a main section. Section 7 repeals all of your old Woodstock ordinance provisions from the early 1970s. The intent is that they're replaced with provisions later in the ordinance. Section 8 tweaks some definitions in your existing Chapter 23 of your code. Section 9 is probably where Section 9 and 11 are probably where most of the interests are. Section 9 allows for alcoholic beverages to be sold, served, or consumed at private events held at certain county buildings, including the community center, the visitor center, the old jail, the old courthouse, the extension office are specifically named.
Let me stop you right there, Heather. On Section C, it says Wakulla County Extension Office, or other county-owned buildings.
Yeah, but I've understood that we may not want to be that broad, is why I...
Okay, so that's been stricken, is that correct?
No, that's in there, but you guys are talking about perhaps narrowing it, I believe. So right now, that's what it reads as any other county-owned building. And in order to do this, there would have to be a caterer who can operate under a caterer's license. They would have to pay a refundable damage deposit in the amount of $500. There is a liquor liability insurance requirement where the county would be named as the additional insured of $1 million per occurrence. There has to be additionally an agreement to indemnify and hold the county harmless, and it then would be approved. If this passes, it says the recreation director. I understand that's going to be changed to the county administrator. So those are the steps that would be required to have alcohol in a county building at a private event. Section 10 basically changes in your special event permitting process. This does not specifically involve the alcohol provisions are found in Section 11 of this ordinance, and what that Section 11 does is, under certain circumstances, would allow events to be held in county parks where alcohol could be served. Upon first reading of this, you may think this is pretty broad and open-ended, but I'd like to point out to you that in subsection B of that ordinance, there are some significant restrictions, because the only entities that would be able to get these temporary permits to have an event that serves alcohol in a county park would be those who could qualify for a temporary state alcohol permit. Those are limited to civic and nonprofit groups only, and they can only get 3 per year from the state. So the state's restrictions, which aren't specifically set out in here but are only referenced in here, make this a pretty restrictive alcohol in the county park provision. In addition to getting that temporary state permit, which again you have to be a nonprofit or a civic organization, you can only get 3 per year. They would have to also apply and get a permit from the county for this. They'd have to provide all of the information you see in subsection C of Section 11, which is the alcoholic beverages. It's limited to wine and beer. How these alcoholic beverages are going to be sold, served, or consumed, whether you're going to have a beer garden, for example, or whether the whole venue would be open, the times, how it will be advertised, a plan outlining the means for ensuring responsible consumption of alcoholic beverages and to ensure that minors do not have access to them. You have this damage deposit of $1,000, the same liquor liability insurance policy. There are in subsection D here, there are criteria for the county administrator to consider when they are determining how to permit these events. And then subsection E goes through reasons that you may deny or revoke an alcohol permit at a county park. And that's basically what subsection 11 does. It would be limited to civics or nonprofits. They can get no more than 3 a year. It's wine and beer only in a county park. In a county building, which would be a private event and much more isolated, you'd have a caterer's license and you could operate under that. We have the same protections in place as far as the county for insurance, damages, and indemnification.
I'm probably gonna stay with county buildings. I don't want to myself. I don't want to get it out in a park, in a festival position where you got a lot of kids, because all of a sudden kids see adults drinking, and and they may. So I'm going to say basically, if we stay with buildings, I would like to say just the old courthouse, but if we stay with county buildings and David is the director, that's where I will go.
And
I don't want to go with the parks.
I'm not striking this because I'm a prude. Don't get me wrong or anything, but I don't see an advantage to doing this. I mean, there's not an upswelling saying, hey, we want to have. I know the Woodstock Festival, for example, can't be held in a county park. They have to hold it at David Harvey's house. But there are plenty of private places, I think, where people can have gatherings. Certainly, most of what goes on at Hudson Park, for example, is fundraisers for people that have been injured. They don't want to serve beer out there, or you know what I'm saying. I don't see any upside to this, I guess. And I do see an upside to the chamber and the Welcome Center, and if they want to serve wine or whatever, and I don't have any problem with that. That's just what I think.
I would like to clarify the language, though, in Section 9 about which county buildings, because in my initial discussion I was asking, well, does that include the pavilion at Hudson Park or the pavilion at Shell Point? And so I would like to narrow that down. I'm comfortable with the ones who are that were named, and if we ended at that.
That's fine with me. We can always come back and have one later or something, because I'm sure there's something we're missing right now. But if there's a building, you're right, you could construe to say, well, there's a bathroom at Panacea Park, why can't we serve alcohol in it?
Well, I know as we start to move into things, a couple things I know have been touched on. One of the reasons the rec park director is the person approving the ordinance is so that for the appeal process, if it's rejected, they can appeal to the county administrator. If you make the county administrator the lead person, they have to appeal to us. I just want to make sure that's the direction y'all want to go in.
I do.
That's mine.
Okay.
I think that's a lot of responsibility.
And I agree with Ms. Arts. We need to qualify what buildings we're talking about. It was my understanding we were doing this so that people could have wedding receptions and other events of that nature. And that's basically the old courthouse, and maybe the community center would accommodate that, but I don't think that we should have just wherever we have a county building that should be.
Again, to point out again, to go through with this, you have to get out $1 million in insurance, pay these fees. You have to be a nonprofit, or well, I guess for private you don't have to be a nonprofit, but you have to have a caterer come and serve it. But that would allow for a wine and cheese function at the visitor center, or a wine and cheese function at the historic jailhouse.
They're both listed.
They are. Jerry's talking about removing them.
Well, no, I'm not.
No, he's just saying delineate it, I think.
Okay.
It may be easier just to add a definition of the word building and capitalize that term. We could leave the list and leave the language or any other county-owned building, and then I can define building to exclude park pavilions and things that are not enclosed.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
We don't have that many buildings.
Well, that's in case somebody adds a building. So you don't have to change the ordinance.
we, to just get this out of the way, I mean, we don't have so many buildings that I can think of that would not qualify. It would be the old jail, the museum maybe.
There are a lot of fire stations.
The community center. Well, let's don't go to the fire station.
I mean,
they're going to be hot enough anyway.
Jerry, they may have a fundraiser. You never know. I mean, there's arguments on both sides to leave it a little bit more open-ended.
Now, another thing, a lot of people who wanted to talk about this, and I'm sure some of them, when we have a lot of citizen cards, so we'll try and get to the citizens in just a second. A lot of people who've expressed concern and talked about how they wanted to see this work out. There's concern about, for instance, you have fishing festivals in Wakulla County, fishing tournaments in Wakulla County, which this would enable them to sell alcohol. Right now, a lot of them partner and sell alcohol nearby, but this will allow them to partner that together if we do not change it. There's been discussion of music festivals coming to Wakulla County who are looking at other communities because there isn't a venue here that allows for alcohol. Just things that have been discussed in the future that by taking this out, you would still be turning this down. So you couldn't do something like the downtown get downs they have in Tallahassee, the Winter Festival in Tallahassee, the Springtime Tallahassee Parade. They all have alcohol events. And for me, and one of the reasons I was wanting to see it encompass everything is what I like to see us be able to do is anything you can. I'm a fan of you want to do something that's good for our community economically, that you can do it in Wakulla County, and you don't have to go to Tallahassee to do it. Again, there's a lot of provisions in this that was limiting it to make it and we worked very closely with people to try and make sure that you'd also be able to control the alcohol. Because right now what you have happening at some events is people drinking beforehand and then showing up at public events. And there's no control over that. The people are getting inebriated and showing up. And we'd like to avoid that by putting controls. Is there other conversations before we have the citizens?
Yeah, I'd like a minute, if I can. I'm against it. I think we open Pandora's box when we approve any level of drinking. That's just my opinion. I know I'm going to be probably lose some friends over this, but I have my moral beliefs, and I don't want to push that on anybody except if we have control. I don't want to open Wakulla County. I hear you say you would for everything being, and that sort of bothers me that we would open all the county facilities to drinking. I've heard the sheriff tell us that he's not for it, and he's here and he can speak for himself, but I've heard that in an email from him, and that certainly raises my eyes to look at this harder. And I hear you want to leave it open-ended. That means we're going to come back and add things over time, and before you know it, everything will be open to drinking. I don't want Wakulla County to be known as where you can go have a drunken brawl and do what you want and then go back to wherever you're from. I don't want that. I want Wakulla County to be like it's always been, a good moral place to come and live and recreate. And I don't think you have to have alcohol to do that. That's just my opinion. And I'm not going to vote for it in any manner. I know that what we have on the books now needs to be cleaned up, and I suggest that we clean it up and make it no alcohol. That's just my opinion. I think I'll be the only dissenting vote on the board, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that. I'd like to hear the citizens and what they have to say.
Can I just make a couple more comments?
Yeah.
We gave staff direction about 3 years ago to establish a park board, and we started to get some momentum recently to get the appointees and get that board going. And one of the things I had envisioned for that board is, beside long-range planning about our parks and prioritizations for improvements and so forth, that they would help to set policies. And so this is the kind of thing I really was thinking our park board would, if not take the lead on, would certainly have an opportunity to review. So the timing's a little unfortunate with that. But also it raises my question, what, if any, role does the park board have in any of this? Especially when you're talking about reviewing appeals and so forth. Is that something that the park board, for example, should do? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. The other thing is, I've had conversations with Gail Campbell and the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth, and it doesn't sound like we're going to go with the outdoor things, which I am most, I agree with. But she provided some information about best practices, and even with our indoor, especially involving the community center, I think these are important to look at to make sure that And it's not just as simple as making sure that youth, underage people don't drink. It has a lot more to do with kind of what's being modeled, and also the safety of everyone. And the phone calls I've gotten, that's been one of the issues, is that people, after they're drinking, are at higher risk for accidents. And, you know, and that's just that's a concern.
And the other part, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that bothers me, two things. If we approve this, which I won't vote for, but if we do, then this board, and which I'll be part of until I'm run off, is that anybody who drives away from one of those events, and God forbid somebody gets killed, whether it be your mother or my daughter or any one of us sitting in this room, I feel responsible for that because I've approved this. And that's what's going to happen. Those people aren't going to walk out of there and have somebody drive them home. They're going to go out there and drive drunk. That's what bothers me. The other part is talking about youth. My group that I work with at the high school does a lot of these events. They will no longer. I won't let them go. They can't go if there's alcohol involved. They can't work at those events. So just understand that, and you know, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just would ask that y'all reconsider the idea of what we're going to do. I know you guys are thinking that it's going to bring more money to the community. I don't think any amount of money is worth that. I just would ask y'all to reconsider what you're thinking about doing here, because I think we're setting a bad precedence for the county as leaders of the community. So with that said, that's all I'm going to say about it. That's how I'm going to cast my vote, regardless of what the citizens say. That's just my opinion. I've heard from a load of folks out there who are against this. I've heard from very few who are for it.
Let me clarify my motion before we talk about it. Is to strike section 11, and I think the best thing probably to do is to specifically spell out which buildings we're talking about, which are the ones mentioned specifically in the ordinance, not open-ended.
What about the Panacea Women's Center? It's not specifically mentioned in there.
Is there a demand for?
It has wedding receptions there.
If they have weddings, then I'm fine with including that. I mean, we're not opening up
again, you have
bars at these places. It's just simply that.
But you are, Randy. You are opening up bars because they're going.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, Randy. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, because they're going to come in. Let me talk.
Okay.
You do all the talking. The point is, you are going to bring a caterer in. That's what you're approving here, and the caterer is going to be a bartender. They're going to bring a bar in and set it up. I've been to these events. Don't tell me you can't or you won't, because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
And they're going to serve alcohol.
Okay.
That's what we're discussing.
Okay. On that note, we have citizens. We're going to start calling them up. You are allowed 3 minutes to talk. Please listen for the sound. There'll be a bell at the end of your 3 minutes. If you go, we'll try and end it at that 3 minutes, because we do have a lot of people. First up is Steve Foltz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Foltz, 35 Monocoop Circle. Again, I appreciate very much the opportunity to speak this evening. I think Randy used the word prude. I'm certainly not a prude, but I think it is totally, absolutely, highly irresponsible for any government to condone in any way, shape, or form a legalized drug that will have, and let me state this clearly, there will be at some point a very negative outcome from one of these events. It's not if it's going to happen, guys. It is when it's going to happen. And then to hear that this is all about the money. So it's okay if we generate revenue. It's okay to jeopardize people's lives. There are plenty of private venues. There are plenty of places for folks to go to consume alcohol. Okay? It's not like it doesn't exist out there. For our government, I am ashamed. I'll tell you straight up, I am absolutely ashamed that our local government would even consider condoning alcohol. There is no upside to alcohol except profitability, except money. Let's be clear. This is all about money. This is not about... It's so frustrating for me to even believe that this is being considered. I moved to Wakulla County because of the values. If I wanted to live in Tallahassee, I would have moved to Tallahassee. If I want to go to those events, Chairman, respectfully, I'll drive up there and go to them, and anybody that wants to go to them can go to those. I do not want to have my children or my grandchildren in an area where people are consuming alcohol and it's just that casual, because alcohol is a legal drug that impairs and kills people. Very simply. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill Jenkins?
I'm Bill Jenkins, and I live in South Choppy, Florida, and I would like to rise and say that I am vehemently opposed to anything that our county has to do with the promotion of the consumption of alcohol. I've been a pastor for over 35 years. I spent way too many nights counseling with wives whose husbands had come home and beat them to a pulp because they were in a drunken stupor. I spent way too many hours counseling with parents whose teenage boys or girl did not come home because they were involved in a tragic automobile accident related to alcohol. I've known the pain of standing over a coffin and looking at my 24-year-old son who was killed by a drunk driver. As a citizen of this county, I pay taxes. If you do this, the tax money used to maintain those buildings, you are forcing me to be a part of that which killed my son, and which has affected so many people in a negative way. We're talking about money. We're talking about finances. Everybody in this world's worried about finances. What revenue you generate eventually will be spent in hiring more deputy sheriffs, more EMTs, more people to take care of what's going to happen eventually. And while you may say, well, we're just opening the door a crack, that is a door that you will never be able to shut again completely. And I, too, am in Wakulla County because of what I found here 4 years ago. Please don't change that. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Jenny Brock?
Jenny Brock, 311 Old Magnolia Road. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to speak. I guess I don't need to say any more. Thank you, Mr. Stewart, Commissioner Stewart, for your honesty. And it's my opinion that in state parks you're not allowed to serve alcohol. Now, while some people may consume it in state parks, that may be an issue of enforcement. I'm not sure. But I agree with the other people. I don't think that's something we need to encourage. There are plenty of venues. You can go home and pop a top or go to a restaurant as long as you have a designated driver. But I don't think we should be encouraging a large group of people to all go and go into a county building and be consuming alcohol. It's not a very good thing to show our children. And I work with children in a lot of venues. I work at the high school and also teach hunter education, and that is absolutely one of the places where we insist that if you're participating in some of these activities, driving, hunting, other sports, alcohol is absolutely no good for your body. It's not healthy for young people, and they don't need to see this. Thank you.
Mr. Chuck Hess? Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Commissioners. Chuck Hess, 112 Lake Ellen Circle. And I guess I don't drink, so it doesn't have any bearing on me. But the interesting thing is, I could see it having for a community events, but what it seems like you're doing is you're making it so that some people can profit off of government buildings. And I don't see that. You know, your private sector out there has plenty of opportunities for drinking and those kind of things and staging those events with alcohol. Why does the government have to get involved with it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ed Brimner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations on becoming chairman. I find it interesting tonight as I was listening to you guys discuss this, and there was a proposal made that you limit it to 4 buildings, and before your discussion was over, the idea that, hey, if this is not enough buildings, we can further that later on. We can add more venues at a later date, even as you guys were discussing limiting the venues. And I see that as the main problem with this ordinance, is once you open the gate, once you get that camel's nose in the tent, you can't keep them out. And I'm afraid that once you open the gate of allowing alcohol on county property, it will only be a matter of time before there's a very special event's going to come along. And another thing, the $1 million liability insurance that you're talking about in today's world is not a lot of insurance. I suspect most people here carry more than that on their automobiles, and they're not drinking. Someone could easily create much more liability than $1 million for Wakulla County. I'm opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Danzy?
Hello, my name's Bob Danzy. Excuse me. Well, it looks like I'm going to be in the minority. I don't think you should drink, first of all. I don't think it's healthy. However, it's a legal product. The way I see it is it's freedom that we're talking about here. And a lot of people, I would be disappointed if the people that have spoken were not here. And typically I agree with them, except for the fact of it's a freedom. If you're of age, you can buy it, and you can go and you can drink it. And we've lost too many of our freedoms as it is. They're taken from us seemingly day by day. So we talk about private venues. Well, I had just paid for a wedding a few months ago, and I'll tell you, there's not any opportunity to pick out there for a private venue. The golf course is about it. I searched and I looked. There's no sense in a couple getting married, and if their families choose that they can't have a toast of champagne or wine at their reception. And also, one thing I want to say is you left out the Maritime Museum in Panacea with your buildings, and the reason I bring that up is if there's a guy that made a living out on the water all his life and he wants to have a 80th birthday or 50th wedding anniversary, and he can't have a toast to his life and celebrate that, then I think that's eats in on our freedoms. So I don't agree with drinking, don't agree with it whatsoever. However, people do it, and it is a legal product, and its freedom is my argument. I just want to be on the record as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Carter?
Stephen Carter, 93 Fish Hawk Trace, 32327, since 1937. So I've been here a while. I still love Wakulla County, and I like it the way it is. And Commissioner Stewart, thank you, and thank each and every one of you all. And I realize this is about America, our freedom. Freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of speech. And thank you all for allowing me. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse 1, wine is a mocker, strong drink a brawler. I heard that word tossed around here tonight. And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. I did not write that. I'm not the author. And this came right out of the Bible that you all took the oath of office on. Presumably, you laid your hand on it and were sworn in as commissioners. So that's what I'm reading, and I was thinking back of fatalities of people that I know in this county, in Wakulla County. Seen a good bit. Fatalities of my friends. Thinking of one couple that was a drunk, was just ran over and snuffed their life out just like that. A night or two before Christmas. Christmas cards clutched in their hand on the way to the post office. Well, you know, and I think about my children, and I think about my grandchildren, and I do not want them to go to a Wakulla County courthouse, county maintained buildings by us taxpayers. You know, we own this county. We're responsible, and I think it's about responsibility, and morally I am opposed to this. It would be an open door. It will be an open door. Trust me, we all know that. So I had some statistics. How much time do I have?
18 seconds.
18 seconds. Well, go online and read the statistics in the United States of America and see for yourself how many fatalities, alcohol is involved in a too large of a percentage. Thank you, Commissioners, and I am opposed to this completely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hugh Taylor?
Thank you all. That is a flyer going around I'll comment about later. I would really like you guys to table this and workshop it. It's really not about public events, clearing things up, but alcohol, and the process has been part and parcel of a hidden agenda on the part of Commissioner Brock and the Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Martin Luther King said the arc of history always bends towards justice, but he never made it here. Where it bends to special interests, selective enforcement, and privileges for a few, where private costs and liability are shifted to the public. Just as barrel racing in Gretna is about casino gambling, this whole thing about clearing things up and getting it straight and all that is about alcohol, specifically the use of alcohol in the old courthouse that the chamber gets for $1 per year. Alcohol's alcohol. We have, I'm assuming, 2 organic chemistry students at least, and the flyer that went around is about the National Institute of Alcohol that clarifies the myth that beer and wine are somehow different from hard liquor. It's all the same. Why is the chamber even pushing this? This seems to me to put them in direct competition with the Wildwoods, the Springs Lodge, the Best Western, Angelo's, and all these other places that are privately run, trying to make it, and the chamber is supposed to help them. Where's the document? This thing is also scratched through. It was in draft form. I don't think it ever got out of draft form. And where are the people who were smoked by the way this thing was been presented, and the churches and the regular folks, until as late as Friday, this was about scheduling a public hearing, at which time you probably would have heard from the community. This is about not saying anything until right at the end. This ordinance is also troubling from a liability and oversight standpoint. We've lost huge grants in whole departments through bad management, favoritism, and faulty oversight. What are we going to lose with the first bad accident? And what's our potential liability? And what's our potential payoff? Let's ask the Shrine Club if they'd like to revisit their alcohol policy. We need to talk more about this as a community, and I would love to see it workshopped. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Shields?
Pam Shields, 130 Riverside Drive, St. Mark's. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm coming from a different angle on this. I knew this was coming up, and I can only speak from my experience of living in 2 counties in Florida, Leon and Wakulla. The reason I think that this ordinance needs to pass, and something that the way I got involved, I am not a member of the board of the Chamber of Commerce now. I did serve many years. And during that tenure, I did chair the courthouse committee. And we could not rent the courthouse to people for wedding receptions. They'd look at it, and then one would say, no, your daughter or your son can't have alcohol to toast. They would go somewhere else. Well, first of all, I appreciate the comments that were said anti-alcohol. Those people that know me know that I will take a drink occasionally. I am not a drinker, and I flip out if somebody gets too much to drink. I had a real bad experience a long time ago with someone very close to me that I won't go into, but I can't tolerate that either. But I'm going to talk about why I think places like the Welcome Center, the Chamber, etc. I have seen so many families that cannot afford to rent or to go to Wakulla Springs because they charge by the drink, or Angelo's, etc. The people that usually are looking for a venue to rent for their child's reception are those people where Granny or Annie or anybody else is going to do the food, and they don't want a drunken brawl. They would not want that for their child's wedding, but they do want the opportunity to have a reception. And I think one thing you all need to hopefully consider is take out that clause about a caterer. Most of the people that are looking for a place to do this, like at the Chamber, will a lot of them, while they will cater, and we've got a couple of great caterers in this county, you need the option for them to decide if they want their family to do their own food. And you can require that there be law enforcement there. There are a lot of things that can be done. The many years that I lived in Leon County, I chaired a lot of private and civic events that were held at the old Capitol, the new Capitol, the R.A. Gray Building, the Brokaw McDougal House, numerous state, county, and city buildings where alcohol was allowed under very, very strict rules, like I'm sure the county attorney is going to put in place. But I just encourage you to consider this and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jonathan Clark?
Commissioners, thank you. As Brother Carter was quoting the scripture, Proverbs chapter 20, verse 1, it says, wine is a mocker, and strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. You think it'll bring the county money? Well, I think I'm going to believe what God says. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 24 says this. Says, verse 21 says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. If they can't afford to get a building somewhere else besides the Women's Center or the courthouse, maybe they shouldn't be buying alcohol either. Okay? It's a fundamental question of right or wrong. And it's not about freedom This is about responsibility. We have laws in place that restrict, and you're going to cause people that would otherwise act responsibly in public now to act irresponsibly. It will not be good for the county. It will not make us any money. And I consent with the gentleman over here talking about his child. When they run a beer commercial, or when they used to do cigarette advertising, they didn't show the blood, the guts, and the gore, and the blood running in the streets. Budweiser never talks about that. This is infuriating to me, that my children have to go to a Valentine's Day parade or some other parade or some other function. Now, I might be wrong about the specifics, but once we crack that door, nothing ever stops. Leave it open-ended, like Mr. Brenner said. It's just going to be one building after another building after another building. The Bible says that the drunkard shall not inherit the kingdom of God, 1 Corinthians chapter 6. And the Bible says that men love darkness rather than light. And it also says here, probably still within my time limit, it says in Romans chapter 13, it says this, let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting. If you go and look this up, this is not, it has to do with partying and drunkenness. It says rioting and drunkenness. And then what follows that is chambering and wantedness. Now you can go look that up. And it also says there, not in strife and envy, but put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ, and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. I believe in freedom. But with freedom comes responsibility. And it is irresponsible to consume alcohol. And it would be irresponsible for this commission to go and vote in something that we have already restricted as a county. And this is our culture, and the culture is the customs of the people. And I live in Wakulla County for a reason. I do not live in Leon County for that among other reasons. I live here. I have one more statement to make, and I'll make it as I walk off. We don't say men aren't to steal a little bit, but we can let them drink a little bit. They ought not fornicate a little bit, so why should we say you should drink a little bit?
Thank you. Sheriff Donnie Crum.
Thank you. Yes, I rise in opposition to this. I wish that it were possible for you to legislate responsible people to do responsible things, but unfortunately we can't. And so I would hope that the commission would stand along with me and my staff that we would oppose this, because there's just simply no way, I've not seen a way to legislate a plan where people can drink one drink and leave. Probably everybody in this room, they can have one drink and go about their business and be fine. For that person that can't, then that's a problem. And so when they leave those events, when they drink, they go home, and that's when the domestic violence occurs, the accident occurs, everything you can think of occurs, because, yes, it started with an innocent drink at a wedding or whatever. I would hope that we would stand hand in hand and be against this and never be a part of that. It cannot, economically, our budget is $9 million a year. A big part of that is because of alcohol and drugs. Either one. It's not altering. We shouldn't ever, ever check mark beside it. It's okay to drink. And I hope you stand with me and vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Schaff.
How you doing? Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening. On behalf of the Chamber, we do support the ordinance. I'm going to change my comments because so many of the not anticipated comments, but didn't expect the change to buildings only. But the Chamber has wanted to have some type of ordinance in place so that we could attract that young couple that wanted to get married in the courthouse. We've had numbers of them call and you know, basically get off the phone when they found out that they could not do that. I think some of the stories that horror stories you've been hearing tonight, you've been hearing the real black side of what could have been white or gray. There are I think what we're talking about is 1% of the population here. There's many people out there that can be responsible for their actions. And I don't, you know, I guess this all depends on how you're how you think about laws and stuff like that. Should you legislate for 1% or should you legislate for 98% or 99%? There are one of the reasons that the Chamber wants to have these events at your building is that it will help us pay maintenance on the building. This is an iconic treasure in this county, and we're not sure, it's going to take some years to know, but we're going to be able to maintain the building. I'm not sure in y'all's state that y'all can maintain the building. We need to help each other here. So that's the reason for our desires to do that. That's the main, 99 out of 100 reasons there would be to hold weddings or some type of special events there where somebody wanted to have a drink or two to celebrate the occasion. I don't think we're talking about brawlers and wife beaters here and all this kind of stuff. And I'm a little, everybody, some people have said that they're surprised that y'all would even come up with this. I'm surprised that we're being subjected to this tone of rhetoric. But anyway, I wish you would consider it. The Chamber could use the help on those types of venues. There are many successful events, as Alan pointed out. The festival in St. Mark's, the Stone Crab Festival, the festival in Apalachicola, the Seafood Festival. I'm sure there's a problem sometime, but can you say that those same people wouldn't have gotten into trouble some other way? Again, you're trying to legislate for 1 or 2% of the population, and I wish y'all would very seriously and deliberately consider how you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Howard Kessler?
Howard Kessler, Panacea. There are about 360 million people in the country. That's 1% is an awful lot. But, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm not going to get into much of that debate. What I'm concerned about is the process that has taken place here. And I've been told this is not primarily about alcohol. It's to make the ordinance better as it relates to parks and county buildings. Well, you have a 3-page agenda item, and in that, alcohol or alcoholic, the word appears 26 times. Tell me it's not about alcohol. In your agenda ordinance, which is 20 pages, it appears 95 times: alcohol, alcoholic, liquor, beer, or wine. Between these 23 pages, 121 times my count. So it is about alcohol. And it is about a county giving permission to have alcohol on the premises. Maybe the citizens want it, maybe they don't. But you certainly have not had the citizens involved in this process. The great majority of our citizens have been excluded from this discussion. This vote should not happen tonight. Well-advertised workshops if you want to proceed, and I plead with you not to, but if you insist upon proceeding, hold your workshops and listen to your citizens. I have been told we want to do things just like Tallahassee. Well, we're not Tallahassee, and many of us have moved here, and those that are born here have stayed here because they wanted the rural character and culture of Wakulla County. We didn't want Tallahassee, Jacksonville, or Miami. We chose Wakulla County. What you're trying to do here is a major change in character for our county. It's a major sea change. And the citizens should have been told clearly what this was about. On page 17, I know I'm running out of time, but there's a statement there that says, and I'll quote, "Whether the sale, service, or advertising of alcohol is consistent with the goals and objectives of the county," it goes on. "Whether the sale, service, and advertising of alcohol is consistent with the goals and objectives of the county." Where are we going? There are many areas of this ordinance that are either vague or there's plain out bad. Where's the example you're setting? What's the rush to take on liability? Where's the fire? do the right thing, vote this down. Thank you.
Bruce Ashley, Wakulla County Coalition for Youth.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And my sole purpose for standing here for just a couple of minutes is to clarify what Commissioner Arts had mentioned earlier from Gail Campbell, who is the Executive Director of our organization. We've existed for 12 years. Our primary mission is to identify the areas of problems with our youth, which extends into our families here in the community. And we have long recognized and identified alcohol as the #1 problem with our youth in the county. We don't deny that, and that's clear from the data. It's clear from our surveys of our youth, and it would be less than sticking my head up in front of the group here tonight and say they're not already exposed to a great deal of alcohol. They're exposed to it by the practices of people in the community. They're exposed to it through commercials they see on TV. They're exposed to it through sponsorships. They're exposed to it through billboards. They're exposed to it through advertising at the front of every convenience store they walk in. They're exposed to it. So to say they're not, that would be a misinformation that I would tell you. Our sole purpose, and we became aware that the representative government of the county was going to look at this issue, our sole purpose was to take steps, as 30 other coalitions have done in the state of Florida that exist, to get involved, to bring forward best practices that have been looked at before such rules, or sometimes after such rules were implemented in other areas of the state. And that's what we wanted to do, and that's what we did. We brought to you best practices that have been dealt with because problems that emerged in other communities around the state. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tim Jordan? Okay. Chuck Shields?
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Chuck Shields, 130 Riverside Drive, St. Mark's. I just want to offer my support for this ordinance and to state that we live in a social society, and things that are organized, you have a wedding, you have a social event in most any building, whether there's alcohol there or not, it always adds to, if you can toast a celebration or whatever with someone. And the chamber really needs this extra revenue to sustain the maintenance and everything on this particular building and some of the other buildings, to be able to allow alcohol on the premise is not inviting children, kids, adolescents to drink. We're all adults. You treat us like adults. We go out to have a social event, and so what? There's alcohol there. We're not inviting children and people to come in and drink. So I just want to say that I do support this. I think the chamber and the other functions in some of our other buildings that can be leased or rented out and serve alcohol, you card the people. You just don't serve to children. Thank you.
Thank you. Paige Killeen. Those are all of our comments for this evening. Any further discussion by our board?
I would have supported this if we had kept it just to the courthouse, but since it got so expanded, I'm going to be like Mike. I'm going to vote against it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to
withdraw your second here.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a?
Do I have the floor, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, sir. Do we need another second? If you withdraw the second.
Okay. Well, I'm still going to comment, but that's fine.
Do we have a second? I'll second and pass the gavel. Commissioner Stewart?
Go ahead. Well, just to comment on some things I heard, Mr. Bruce Ashley first, I appreciate that and what you do with the youth. And we, he mentioned practices of the leaders of the community. That's us. And what we do here tonight is going to set an example for those who are out there listening, youth, whoever they are. You know, I heard somebody say we're in a social. Since when did alcohol make it okay? Why does that make it social? I teach toasting in our program, and we don't toast with alcohol. You can toast without alcohol. Where is it written in the guide to how to toast that you got to have alcohol? I don't ever remember seeing that. So that bothers me. The courthouse is a beautiful place. We all acknowledge that, and we're all proud of it. People want to go there and get married in it because it's a beautiful setting, and it's a great venue to do that. But that doesn't mean we got to allow alcohol. If they want to have alcohol, they can get married there and take their pictures and go party somewhere else in a private place. I think we're setting a precedence, a dangerous precedence, guys. We're going down a very slippery slope if we do this. And I appreciate, Jerry, you changing your vote. And I would again ask all of you to reconsider that we do this at all. I hate that we're even still considering it. I wish we would pull it off the table and just not consider it. This is not for this county. That's just how I feel. I'm asking you guys to reconsider what you're thinking. I hear what you're saying. I've heard it all from these folks before, but I can't go there knowing it's not just about youth. It's about what our sheriff said. He of all people is most qualified to know that people take a drink and then they want another drink and then they want another drink. Who's going to stop them at these events? There's nobody going to stop them. Even if you have a deputy there, you're going to tell the deputy's not going to stop them. He can't. So we're setting. I think we're setting a dangerous precedent. I'm asking you guys to please reconsider, even considering doing this tonight.
I'll make it easy. I personally have absolutely no problem with this whatsoever, but I'm not here to vote on my personal beliefs. So I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Okay. Is there any other motion on this item? Do you want to have a workshop on this item to talk about it? Because there are other suggestions made in this item, other than just the alcohol, that actually go to improve our local community events, which I think Dr. Kessler addressed.
Save that for another day.
Do you want to move to have a workshop on it?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
I would like the board to move forward with establishing our park board and getting that operational. And Section 10 in this, which has nothing to do with alcohol, it's entirely to do with just the permitting of events at county parks. We do need to probably refine that procedure, so.
Okay. All right, on that note, we're going to move forward. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll return with awards and presentations. Order. Where Mr. Arts is. Oh, there she is. Okay. Thank you. We're going to move forward with awards and presentations, and then citizens to be heard will follow that. Our first announcement of the evening is the announcement of the new director of Wilderness Coast Public Libraries, Cheryl Turner.
Good evening, Cheryl Turner from Wilderness Coast Public Libraries, and I want to first of all thank you all for being library supporters in this county, and that we have a long way to go still. I just want to quote one statistic: people are reading more than usual, and but they're reading in lots of different formats. It could be a book, it could be their Nook, it could be their phone, it could be internet, whatever. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that people are reading more, and they'll be at their libraries one way or another. I am retiring as of January 1, and I'm here to introduce you to the person who's going to take the administrative position at Wilderness Coast Public Library. She's already been working for about a month and a half, just learning all the things that she has to do. And her name is Pat Gilliland, and I'll let her say a few words.
I'm so very glad to be here, and It's such a nice forum to be able to meet you all. I normally do not sound like a frog, but I have the cold that's been going around, which is why I have the water and I'm living on halls. But I'm very glad to meet you all, and I look forward to working with everyone in Wakulla County to keep having a wonderful library as we have, and to move forward with public service. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Up next is an announcement regarding the Big Bend Scenic Byway calendar from our TDC Director, Pam Portwood.
Thank you so much. I'm actually here representing the Big Bend Scenic Byway Corridor Management Entity. That is the 33-member organization that guides the implementation of the Big Bend Scenic Byways Corridor Management Plan. And one of the things that we've really been focusing on lately is getting our marketing materials updated and improved. And as you know, we recently had success in getting funding for our interpretive and way-showing plan for the entire byway, and this actually is a little small piece of that because it does interpret the byway. But this Big Bend Scenic Byway Corridor Management Entity wanted to express their gratitude for the support from the Wakulla County Commission for all of our initiatives. Anytime we've ever come to you needing either a letter of support or match or really just any kind of support for our projects, we've gotten it, and we very much appreciate that. And so on behalf of the Big Bend Scenic Byway, I'm going to present all of our county commissioners and our county administrator and our county attorney with our Big Bend Scenic Byway 3-year calendar. It's a really beautiful piece. We're looking right now for venues to present it as a piece for an award, because we believe it's an award-winning marketing piece. But it has all of the information about the byway and the intrinsic resources that are on our byway, and some beautiful photographs, as well as just information about where to get more information for visitors, economic information about tourism in general for the state. So thank you for your support, and I hope you enjoy our calendars and put them someplace prominent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations, and they do look great.
You get some t-shirts made too.
Thank you.
Everybody gives us a t-shirt.
Up next on awards and announcements and presentations this evening is an update regarding Operation Santa from Mr. Bruce Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Giving you an update on Operation Santa, the Coalition for Youth's effort to help those in need this holiday season. I need to announce that we need all clothing and any toys to be delivered by or before Monday of next week. We're working closely. The Menard Assembly of God, for one, has adopted a number of children. We've also worked closely with the Ochlockonee Bay United Methodist Church, and Miss Elma Gillette has identified one of the sources for food. And I need to express to the community that right now our biggest needs are food, gas for people, and grocery items. So we're asking, I've got a list of menu items through a provider that the Ochlockonee United Methodist Church has identified, and was able to help a number of people through the Thanksgiving holiday season with food. But we need food, gas, and groceries. Basically, a meal for the holiday can be bought for a $35 amount, and it is very nice. It comes with fresh cut vegetables. The only thing that's frozen in the whole box is a turkey when it arrives for a family to have a holiday meal, and gas that can be bought at any of our providers that sell gas cards, and grocery cards from Winn-Dixie, our other local grocery marts. Those are our biggest needs, but we will accept toys and clothing the rest of this week and through this coming weekend. And we're also, I need to mention Cops for Kids. We've reached out for a little help from them on some bicycle requests from some young folks in the community, and we're trying to fill those bicycle requests. And I can't say enough about the number of folks who've stepped up to volunteer, and there's a number of you in this room both staff members and commission members and others that represent the business and local residents. We are at about 85 families, and 45 of them have been adopted. So we've got about 40 that are not adopted. We're still getting a few requests for adoptions, and we're going to try to get all those taken care of. But the outpouring is great, and the need is great. And I thank you all.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
leave these menus up here for you, the staff, to have access to that company as well.
All right, thank you very much for that information. If there's a way for us to help distribute it to the community, we'll make sure to do that also. Up next, Commissioner Arts, you had an announcement?
Yeah, let me just take a minute to underscore what Bruce said, and then I'll get to my announcement. There are still close to 40 families that need to be adopted, and if you read the wish list for these families, they'll break your hearts. I mean, people want beds, clothing, just haircuts, things that we take for granted. And these, so I encourage you, please, we need to, ideally every single family would be adopted. And you don't need to spend a lot of your own money necessarily, like 1 or 2 new things for them, some hand-me-down things if you have them. And you can shop at the community center where all the community donations are coming in to try and find items there. So please, I encourage you to think about adopting a family. And I was also told there's a real need for children's clothing. So preschools, schools, places where children are in large numbers, if you could start drives to get clothing, gently used hand-me-downs, that would be great. So a lot of, the community's been stepping up, but the need is huge. So please help out if you can. And my announcement was the Wakulla Historic Society is having a Heritage Christmas celebration, and it's their 3rd annual open house on Tuesday, December 13th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Museum and Archives, the old jail. So come and celebrate with them from 6 to 8 on Tuesday the 13th, and they will also be accepting some donations for Promised Land Ministries.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Stewart?
Yes, we'll talk a little bit about the Historical Society. I want to ask first that the folks, I see 3 that's got blue shirts on. If y'all just stand real fast, and my wife back there, who is also a volunteer, just stand up, please. These folks right here, y'all can sit down. Thank you very much. If you haven't been over to the Historical Society building, which is over here in the old jail, and I'm talking to you folks in here and the folks out there listening on TV, please take time just to stop in there and visit that place. It's unique. It's the character of the place is most interesting. When you come in, they got it divided up in the rooms in there. It's like each community has its own little room that they talk about the history of the county. If you have any interest in Wakulla County, have lived here for any period of time, or are a newcomer who wants to learn about the county, you need to go visit it. It's a wonderful place, and they would love to have some more volunteers to help man the place as well, I'm sure. But the Heritage Christmas Open House is on Tuesday, December 13th, from 6 to 8 p.m. They're going to have light hors d'oeuvres. Again, that's on Tuesday, December 13th, 6 to 8 p.m., right over here at the old jail right behind us. They also have a veterans exhibit that's currently on display, as well as a gift shop for your holiday shopping. They got some neat gifts over there that are just about Wakulla County. Some I think I remember seeing some hanging ornaments that has Wakulla County on them, and many other things that you'd be interested to purchase if you're interested in Wakulla County. If you want to send somebody that you know who has lived here and has gone away and just to share with them. I'm telling you, this is a great place, and more people need to visit it just to have an understanding of what these folks and time and effort they poured into it. So I'm big on the Historical Society, and I thank you folks, and I hope tonight we're going to find out we're going to have a place for y'all to start working on putting those homes in when that item comes up. So anyway, we'll talk to Ben about that later.
All right. Excellent. I've got two quick announcements. One, I want to make sure everyone's aware that the legislative delegation meeting will be meeting here in this room on this Thursday, December 8th at 7 p.m. So if you'd like to express any concerns or praise towards our state legislatures, our state representatives, and our state senator, they will be here this Thursday at 7 p.m. in our board chambers behind the courthouse. And my second announcement, I'd like to ask Commissioner Stewart to come to the front of the section here.
I don't have any guns.
No alcohol.
Commissioner Stewart, we'd like to thank you for serving as chairman for 1 year. It's not an easy task, and we really appreciate all of your hard work in that, and we want to thank you. So, thank you very much. Thank you.
Alan, you didn't use the microphone. Broke the camera. Alan, speak to the microphone, please.
I know, I thought of you. I apologize to our viewers at home if you were not able to hear that announcement, but we recognized Commissioner Stewart for his 1 year as chairman, and we appreciate all that he's done. Now we're moving into award, it is, time for citizens to be heard. Jessica? Thank you. And our first citizen to be heard this evening is Mr. Chuck Hickman.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Chuck Hickman. I live at 528 Hickorywood Drive. And the last time I stood before this group, I was a little bit disturbed with the reaction that I got. Basically I was booed off the podium. I don't consider this in keeping with your meeting decorum. And so what I did is I went home, and I had 2 telephone calls and an email by the time I reached the house, telling me that I was exactly right in what I was bringing before the county commission, that the TDC website was not up to date. And this is something that they say that once you put it out there in web space, whatever you want to call it, pardon me, you can't retract it. Well, there it is in front of you. As a matter of fact, on the second page, and what I gave you, I only gave you half. I had well over 40 pages that I called out of this site with errors, omissions, and misinformation. If you look at this particular site, across the top, it gives you home, about Wakulla, why Wakulla, best time to visit, what to do, where to stay, and plan. You'll have to pardon me, I'm on some medication, so I'm a little bit shaky. But the situation is that I will admit, after 4 hours of searching, I finally hit upon the site that goes down the side. And that site appears to have been updated. It's called main menu. But that's not the main menu that the average tourist would go to. They would go to the menu across the top and hit drop-downs. And when they hit drop-downs, they find such things as fishing. You go to fishing, you find nothing except freshwater fishing. You go to scalloping, you'll find nothing. If you go to some of these sites and try and call the telephone numbers, for example, the Wakulla Lodge, that telephone number is totally out of date. One of my favorites, and I just got to lay it in front of you, is one page that was updated 27 January 2010. and I hope you'll give me 30 seconds more.
Be quick, be brief, please. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, we're advertising Alligator Point. Why are we advertising for another county? Second of all, we're talking about Shell Point having a resort that offers restaurants, motels, etc., etc. That has been gone for 2 or 3 years. These are the types of things that your visitors are trying to find and cannot find on this site unless you stumble on it like I did. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Comm?
More or less, I'm here tonight to move to deny an application to put a bail bonds office inside of a neighborhood. Apparently there's been an application to host this inside the neighborhood. When I say inside, I mean literally inside the neighborhood. I spoke with the sheriff outside. He agreed with me that it is extremely unsafe.
Make sure you're talking into the mic.
He agreed with me that it's extremely unsafe and that they were looking at actually buying a couple of the lots where the bail bonds office is going for the security of the jail. That's more or less where we're going with this. There's 26 kids in a 22-home neighborhood. Probably 25 of them, I think, are under the age of 16. It's just a safety factor. And then there's also going to be a lot of problems with market value going down also. A lot of people are going to start short selling. They're ready to get out of there. And if there's any way that you guys can help, we'd greatly appreciate it.
We'll look into that and make sure and get some more information from our planning staff later.
Thank you.
Sure.
It's under 10,000 square feet, Melissa?
It is.
So it does not come before the board?
That's correct.
And this is on a commercial lot?
That's correct.
And I agree exactly what he's saying, but is there anything?
Normally, what we are looking for is to ensure that the site plan application we receive is complete. It meets all the requirements of the code. If it does meet all those requirements of the code, it is approved.
I've spoke with Jamie twice, and I've asked Heather this afternoon, and she hasn't had time because I told her just before the meeting started she's going to look into it for us tomorrow and give us some information about if we have any way we can get out of being able to having to approve it. Otherwise, we may be where we are, and I don't know how to proceed from here. So that's why.
Well, the way I understand it, there's supposed to be like a 50-foot berm or
50-foot setback, a buffer.
And they went in Friday and actually cleared all the land. So there's no buffer there. I've got pictures on my phone that I took tonight from outside the neighborhood. You can see the neighborhood sign, and then you can see the lot. And then I also got another shot from the street looking into the lot, looking dead at a house. Like I said, there's a major safety issue here. And when I've got somebody like the sheriff of the county that's agreeing with me on this, that really makes me feel that I'm not a fool, and I'm not trying to come out here and get over on somebody. I'm worried about the safety of my family is what I'm worried about. We got people in here 24 hours a day already coming in here, drag racing down to a dead-end street, turn around and leaving. Well, now it's going to happen with not only the people who screw up coming in there, but also the people that are looking for trouble or trying to bail out trouble.
Okay. Well, we'll continue to look into it, and hopefully, do we have your contact information?
No, I'll be more than happy to give it to anybody.
Okay. If you can make sure Jessica has it, and we'll follow up.
Who's that?
Right here. Jessica, sorry. Commissioner. Are you just pointing? Okay. I thought you were saying that. Teresa Broxton?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here on the same issue Mr. Cobb was on. We own a home, and we have for the last 10 years in Fairwood subdivision. Now we are faced with a commercial business that's going to be at the entrance of our subdivision. Not only a commercial, but a bail bondsman agency, which will be 24-hour traffic into our subdivision. I have children. I live in a community where it's safe to allow my child to go out, play with the children down the street with a watchful eye on him. once this business is established, if it's permitted, I won't feel that way in that neighborhood any longer. I strongly request your assistance so that this application is not processed.
Thank you. You can leave your information with Jessica also, and this is the first I've heard of it tonight, and we'll follow up.
Our community is putting forth a petition from each of the residents to sign. I'll make sure you guys get a copy of that along with the Planning and Zoning Department.
Okay, thank you. Bob Dancy?
Hello, my name is Bob Danzy. Thank you for letting me speak at this time. I want to bring up a situation where a lot of times we talk about being friendly to new business coming here. And there's a way that we can be friendlier if a person wants to come here and they want to develop something. Is anybody aware that you have to pay twice for your traffic study and your stormwater study? Yeah, the person has to pay for it, and then we got to pay for you to have a person to study it, to see if our person did it correctly. Now, I've brought this up 2 or 3 times, but it's just, at some point it has to be addressed. There's no reason. Maybe you would have a list. I don't really want that, but something to where a person isn't paying twice for the same report. If y'all want to pay for a report, then pay for it. Or if it's disputed somehow, then maybe there's a way to deal with that. But I hope you know what I'm talking about. I hope it's been familiar. It's been talked about enough that
I'd like to ask somebody, why do we do it? Why is that? Give me why do we do that?
Well, what he's talking about, for anyone who's not familiar, is a new project that comes in. We require that they provide information for how many trips would be generated by a new business.
Now, that's a traffic study.
Right, that's the traffic study that the applicant is having to pay for. And then the county earlier this year and before in the comprehensive plan has required that a transportation concurrency review be completed on that applicant's submitted information to ensure that it's correct and to make sure that there are no discrepancies with any of the information provided. There is an associated fee with that application.
Okay, basically I'm like this gentleman here. If he has an approved licensed person who does that first study, then why cannot we take, it's sort of like a surveyor. You have one surveyor who puts his license on the line that this is an accurate statement, and then we have our own people who are not, or whatever. They may have a license also, but we don't need to be having 2 different people verifying the same thing.
Yeah, I agree with some of your points, but just funny enough, with the surveyor, that's exactly what state statute says on a final plat. You have to have a different surveyor review it to make sure it's correct. Still, I am kind of agreeing with what you say, but
these are
peer review is
these are rules and regulations that we need to listen to the gentleman, and we need to do something about it. We need to make a change in it. There's no reason. There's no reason that we have. How do we make that change? How do we make that change?
Well,
I would recommend, I apologize, and trying to actually stick with our rules, and this is probably my fault because it's the new chair. The way citizens to be heard is supposed to be working is we let them speak and we don't actually discuss back and forth. And I know with the citizens that were here, I engaged and that was my fault. But if you'd like to discuss this, if we save it for the end of the meeting for the citizen chairman discussion items, that would be appropriate time for all of us to continue this conversation. I apologize and thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with item 9 tabled to our next meeting?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Moving on to the planning and zoning agenda items. Item number 17. Request board approval of transmittal of application for comprehensive plan text amendment to special area plan 1 of the future land use element CP 11-05. Ben Boynton is the applicant.
Don't take a while. It's going to take a while.
All right, this first item this evening is in regards to text amendment to Special Area Plan Number 1. This was added to the comprehensive plan back in 2004, and it created restrictions for 468.98 acres located at the intersection of Crawfordville Highway and Bloxham Cutoff. It's the area that's highlighted on the projection screen. And large portions of this property have already been platted as the Flowers subdivision. That's the area you see with all the black lines. The Planning Commission considered this application to amend the requirements for that development at their November 14th public hearing, and the Commission voted unanimously to recommend transmittal of the application. However, they made that recommendation subject to a condition that restrictive covenants would be required at the preliminary plat stage for the developments as they come through within this development. And specifically, the proposal seeks to change the policy to allow from allowing 60 dwelling units when central water and sewer are not available within the entire special area plan, to clarifying that, since most of it has been developed, to only allowing 33 dwelling units if central sewer and water are not available, and that would only be for the portion of the plan that is south of Woodrich Road, so that's in the southern portion of the property. Additionally, a second amendment is being requested that would seek to reduce the amount of required natural state, also for just that portion of the property that is south of Woodrich Road, and that encompasses about 161 acres. And the proposal is to reduce the natural state from 45% natural state to a reduction of 20% of the required natural state. And should that proposed reduction ultimately be approved, it would reduce the natural state for that 161 acres to 32.31 acres, and would also allow for the natural state to be located within the deeded lots themselves. And this amendment has been brought forward in an effort to create the ability to have larger lots so that the natural state can be within those and have a larger lot that would hopefully have more market appeal. Another reason for the proposed modification was to provide more flexibility in regards to the natural state and potentially having a portion of the property utilized by the County Historical Society for their Heritage Village project. And this text amendment is at the transmittal stage, and should the board vote to transmit it tonight, it would be sent up to the State Department of Economic Opportunity and other agencies for review, and then potentially it would come back for the board's consideration again for a final vote.
I move that we postpone the transmittal of this application until two things are in place. One is that there's a written agreement between the developer and the Historical Society to make sure that in fact the Heritage Village will be given this land, and also that we postpone it until we have our new planning director on board, which will be in, the evaluation committee's been narrowing them down, and I think that's not all that far off till we'll have a planning director.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion. I agree with part of what you want to do, Lynn, but I can't agree with the other part, but I'll second it for the sake of discussion.
All right. We have a couple citizens. Mr. Ben Boynton. Mr. Boynton, I apologize. We've had a request for a discussion amongst the board, and then we'll have you talk. I apologize. Thank you. You had something you want to say?
Yeah. The thing I would like to see changed is the natural area, whatever it says it's protected by restrictive covenants. I'd rather see that done by an easement. I don't know how many times I've seen restrictive covenants on buffer zones, and there's nothing you can do about it. But if it's a conservation easement granted to Wakulla County, then we have some sort of enforcement on it. Other than that, I know there's a purpose to doing this. I know this particular piece of property received, in my mind, an inordinate amount of review and scrutiny from DCA, because the requirements in this special area are pretty high. And this was done at the peak of the boom, right when everybody was saying we need to get a handle on this, and I think they may have went way overboard with this particular piece of property. Ben's a businessman now. I'm well aware of that. He's not doing this. He's doing it for a reason, and whatever reason it is, I don't really have a problem with it. I would like to see the easement in a natural state. I would like to see the written agreement with the Historical Society. Now, I don't trust you, Ben, but trust but verify, I think Ronald Reagan said. And other than that, and David had mentioned about sewer.
Yes.
At least low pressure sewer in there. Water, not really concerned about, but in my mind, sewer would be to protect. Of course, I live right up the road, but those are the consideration I'd like to give. I don't know if we need I guess we wouldn't need to postpone it until there's an agreement,
right?
A written agreement that's reviewed in place.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, can I?
Yes, sir.
Comment. I agree with Lynn that we need the written agreement. Agree with Randy. I'm fine with what Randy said about the easement. I think that's okay. But for me to vote for it, Ben, it's going to have sewer and water. I mean, that's the way that whole subdivision. I was here when you and I wrestled with that back then. That was what it was all predicated around, was sewer and water, and I think it needs to be on sewer and water. And then how many acres would this agreement? How many acres are we talking about donating to the Historical Society?
40 acres, more or less. Well, and those lots have been going from smaller lots up into 5-acre lots now.
Right. I understand, but we still need to do sewer. Sewer. There was a lot of money spent on that sewer, Jerry. It's a long story. I'm not going to drag all that back out again. But that place ought to be on sewer.
You'll get a chance. Okay. Any other discussion before we have the comments from the community?
Yeah. I want to say that in the very beginning of this, Ben told me, he and I were talking, and he said he was the one that brought the idea forward to make the donation to the Heritage Group. He was under no pressure to do that. No one knew that he was going to do it or thought about doing it. Most likely, without his gift to the Heritage, he could have probably got this thing through the system anyway. I'm bothered a little bit by I know we have to have agreements, but I want to just say that Ben brought this forward. It's Ben's idea to gift this thing to the Heritage Foundation. It's not forced upon him. It was donated. Maybe he will benefit on this, and I hope he does. That's the name of the world. That's the way we live. That's why we pay our bills. But and I don't want to wait on the new planning director. This, we can drag this thing out.
I'm not so much concerned about the planning director, to be honest with you. I would like to see the agreement, but I don't think we need to wait.
Yeah, that was the part I didn't agree with you on, Lynn, was the planning director.
I'm willing to amend the motion if that's the way most of you feel. I think there are issues pertaining to this property, and maybe the easement's the solution. Maybe there are other alternatives in terms of the natural areas. That's one of the reasons I'd like to have the expertise of so we can benefit from the planning director, and the same issues with sewer and water and whatever. So I just think we're not that far from having a top-notch planning director, and I think this is a very sensitive piece of property, and I think we just, we aren't talking about months and months delays. It's going to be a while till they get the written agreement. It'll be January anyway till this comes back. So, but I'll amend my motion and just
okay. So your motion currently is to
postpone it pending a written agreement, but then it comes back to the board again, is that correct? I'd like it to come back to the board again with the easement also.
Yes.
And okay, so I'm amending it so that it's conditional on,
Are we postponing it or conditionally approving it? Two different things.
I wanted to postpone it and bring it back after the planning director had an opportunity to review what was proposed and have discussions with Mr. Boynton and, not be on the front end of a project that's going to go on for a while. So
Now you're just postponing it until these documents can be brought back.
That's what the board, it sounds like that's the only way I'm going to get approval for this, so that's my motion.
All right, Mr. Boynton?
Ben Boynton. A couple of points I want to make. I was the one that seeked out the Heritage Group. They didn't seek me out. Second is that time is of essence to me. Money is short. Time is short. I'd like to also say that the agreement that we have with the Heritage Group I have no problem with, but there is no reason to delay the vote on this, waiting on the agreement. We can, when it comes back from DCA, the agreement will be in place and you'll have to vote again anyway. This just shortens the time frame. So there's no reason to delay the submission to DCA waiting on the agreement. I've already basically told everybody what I was doing. We've come to the, I've met with them. They understand what we're doing. They're for it. They want the property. I want them to have the property. And I'm not putting any shenanigans. I kind of resent it, to be honest with you.
I do too.
And so, as a result, the other thing I want to talk to you about is the sewer. The reason that I did 30 acres, 30 units on sewer, on septic tank is, let's just say that we did the DCA and we agreed to sewer. And then it came back and I did a PUD and you beat me up so bad, I'm not saying it's going to happen, you beat me up that I could not do 2 acre tracts. For some reason you say, okay, Ben, we said we're going to let you do 2 acres, but we decided we're not. So now I'm sitting there with DCA basically having done a full-scale overview of my property, and I'm coming back with my PUD, and you're trashing it, and now I'm saying, okay, well, look, I can't put sewer on 5 acres because I can't make it work. I can do septic tank on 5 acres. Well, right now, you can do septic tank on 5 acres. I can at least survive. But if you don't give me this ability, and I had it in the original agreement, if you don't give it to me, then I'm dead in the water. I mean, you basically got a stranglehold on me, and I'm going to be belly up. So I don't want it to be a political, I don't want my financial future to be a political issue with you guys. I mean, 5 acres on septic tank, it's not going to happen. I'm going to do 2 acres. If you let me do my PUD on 2 acres, it's going to be a PUD. Let's just say, I stepped on some toes. Somebody got mad. Next thing I know is a firestorm. No, Ben, I'm sorry, but we're not going to do this anymore. That's the way I feel about it.
Right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Murray McLaughlin?
Thank you, Commissioners. Martin McLaughlin, 207 Beatty Taft Drive, Crawfordville. I'm here obviously because we support getting the land that this would represent to us. We are not in the business of land use. We're not experts. We do know something about historic preservation. That's our role. And we believe that if this property eventually comes to the society, we can create something out there that's going to be of tremendous benefit to the citizens of Wakulla County. We believe that not only will we have these 11 and 12 houses already donated to us on exhibit in their natural state that tells the story of their ancestry, the ancestors that live there, but there are many other things we plan to do in that park. If it happens, there will be educational opportunities for school children. There will be theater where we act out some of the historic occurrences in this county. We did Wakulla Story last year in the old courthouse, and those kinds of events would take place. And I believe I've been to at least 8 different heritage type villages throughout the country, one in Canada. We travel quite a bit, and every one of them have people coming every day. It will attract
people to our county. It will increase tourism to our county. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, you know, the decisions as to how this happens is yours. We simply would like to have the opportunity to develop this village. Dollars are scarce from granting agencies. It's very difficult to find a situation where you could get this type of land made available to you through the park, that part of the park. Mr. Boynton has been gracious, in our opinion, in offering this to us, and he did. The way that it occurred, I came here, and I made a presentation about the Heritage Village just to educate the commissioners about what we wanted to do. The next day, a call came to us, actually to me from Commissioner Moore, that Ben Boynton was interested in talking with us. So I can verify that he came to us. We were not, I had no idea he was even in the audience when it happened. But at any rate, we're hopeful that we can work this out and it'll be a good public-private partnership. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I would just like to say I think everybody on the board is very excited about the prospect of having a heritage village, and you know, and that's the I think we're unified in our support about that. I personally like the property down in Medark that has a historic home, and we made efforts to, you know, submitted several grants and whatever, but weren't able to deliver that. So. But I want to go back to the issue that Randy, about the easements then. When in the timing is that going to be addressed?
Mr. Mayor, you have
I got a couple comments actually, and let me address that as one of them. I assume the easement would have to be addressed in the text. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that something we can change from just saying deed restrictions to easement granted to the favor of the county easily?
We can make that change. Is that an issue with you, Ben? I mean, if you want to speak to that, now would be an opportunity.
I'm looking at sellability of the property, pure and simple. Whether somebody's going to be interested in buying this lot with a conservation easement to the county. I think we can accomplish this with restrictive covenants, or we can also put it on the plat, on the final plat. We can designate the areas as natural state, and that stays with the property. It goes with the property. It would make it more sellable if I did it that way than a conservation easement to the county.
Well, I'd still like to see the conservation easement. In the PUD sewer issue, I think it's going to be addressed. It is addressed in the existing text, right, Melissa? It says if you're less without central potable water and sanitary sewer, the maximum density shall be 1 residential unit per 5 acres, and that's not being proposed to change in the SAP.
That's correct.
So that condition would still stand.
That's
so
right.
If Ben did get the 2-acre lots approved, he'd have to be on central water and sewer.
That's right.
Okay, all right, then I'm fine with that. As far as the agreement, Ben is right. It does have to come back before us to adopt the comp plan if DCA signs off on it. I'm fine with, as long as Ben knowing that before I would vote to adopt the comp plan, that agreement would have to be in place. And I think that he can't do anything without us giving final approval. So, and I don't doubt that he's trying to be slippery with it, but sometimes these things slip people's mind and they go on and just never get done. Seen it happen before. So I would like to stick with the easement. The sewer, I think, is a moot point. I think it's addressed here.
Well, then why are we requesting the change to the 33 units on when water and sewer are not available? Because that's what's going to go forward, correct?
That is part of the amendment, and that was done in an effort to try and clarify how many units could be platted without central sewer and water connections. It was kind of in a gray area for interpretation by staff before. There was a little bit of a question about that. And so while this amendment was occurring with the natural state, that was included as well, so that there would be no question as to how many units could be done with 5-acre tracts.
Well, why don't we say no units? I'm just, if that's what the board is saying, that they...
I'm for sticking with what he was told back when the county adopted this, which is if you do less than 5-acre lots, you got to be on central water and sewer. I'm for just sticking to that. If he decides to do 10-acre lots, then I don't have a problem with having to set the tank in the well, to be honest with you. It's going to be a performance-based septic tank, of course.
I share
What
Randy's...
size lots you're shooting for?
Yeah.
For 2-acre lots, it'll be, that's it.
Could you come to the microphone before, if you're going to speak with us?
What I propose is doing a preliminary plat and a PUD simultaneously to speed this process up, gain ground on my time. And when I bring the PUD in, you will have a development plan for the Heritage Park on that property. You'll have a development plan on my property. You'll see how the traffic flows. You'll see how the buffers are. So that you will be voting on a total concept of everything. As soon as we get a vote on this, I'm going to assume that DCA or the powers to be in the state are going to go with this program. I'm going to start diligently working, trying to come up with a game plan that everybody's accepting, and I want to have that in front of y'all when you vote on the final acceptance of the comp plan change. I want some direction at that time before I start spending my money on my preliminary plat and my PUD, because the worst thing that could happen is going back over and over and over again trying to hit this or re-licking it when there's no reason to. Everybody basically wants to get there. I'm flexible, they're flexible. We're going to stay within the confines of the regulations that or the county regulations and the state regulations, and we're going to get it done, but we're going to do it as quick as we can. It's that important.
I guess the only thing I would want to change then, I think the other issues kind of address themselves about the agreement and about the sewer, is change it from restrictive covenants to easement, conservation easement. I've just seen too many times where restrictive covenants have been put on a buffer zone and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And Ben, I'm set on that point. Okay.
But if it's on a final plat, then that is more specific. It's actually on the plat. That's what you need.
It won't hurt to have it here. It's certainly not going to hurt anything.
Well, it could hurt my sellability.
If it's in the comp plan text?
No, I'm saying if you have a conservation easement that's given to the county on that property, that is different than having a natural state area thatched on there saying that they can't do it with...
Let me be clear, the conservation easement given to the county is what
that's what you want, and what I'm asking for is something different. I'm asking for a natural state area designated on the plat with specifications of what can and cannot be done on that piece of property.
I'm sticking with...
I understand what you are.
All right.
Only problem I have with the easement, and I think you can sell me on it, but is the people who buy those lots can't do anything with their property.
That's correct. That's why it's called a natural state.
I understand that. I'm just...
Now, they can go walk around in it, of course. I mean, they can put a fence out there and say you can't go out here, but...
I'm just saying that's one of the drawbacks to this is we're... Am I right?
Here's the problem with what I'm hearing. You've got now you've got the ability for somebody else to come on that property. You have eliminated my sellability. It's supposed to be for private use. That's why I want it within the lot. And we can do it with the plat, and we can do it with thatched, and we've already designated what a natural state is on the SAP. That's already in the books.
I have a question for the county attorney real quick. Do conservation easements allow public access?
No, they don't.
I mean, you're not going to have the general public in there. The property owner would be able to make use of it. One thing to consider when you're doing an easement is that is a property right in favor of the county, and so there is a true conservation easement. There's a requirement to do sort of maintenance on behalf of the county would have to maintain it. I think we're talking more like not a conservation easement per se, but a natural state easement or something.
Yes, nobody wants the growth department to be out mowing somebody's backyard. You know.
But is there anything to say, Heather, that we couldn't go in there? Not that we'd ever do this, but we could go in there and cut a road through their backyard?
Oh, no, I mean...
Put a utility through there?
No, the easement document itself would limit what the purpose of it is, and unless it said you could put roads and utilities in there, you wouldn't be able to. It's limited in the document grant itself.
If I were buying a piece of property and that was on it, that easement was on it, I don't think I would want to buy it.
You're talking about a conservation easement?
Right.
Goodness, the park has a 300-acre conservation easement around it. We just have a different opinion. I would love to live. I'm glad the conservation easement is next to my property down on 98 because it's a definite advantage.
So you're okay with the easement?
I am.
But
with the conservation.
Well,
he's not.
I would rather have it. I'm looking for sellability to a end user. And if they're looking at a piece of property with a conservation easement, they're going to say, what is this about? If I look at, and I have it on the plat saying this is a natural state area and this is what you can and can't not do with this piece of property, and the county is going to oversee it. And in the SAP, it talks about what you can and can't do with it. That is a different concept in their opinion.
Called a natural state easement.
That's right.
That's fine.
Well, if you're concerned about sellability, what I'd rather do is go back to having a natural area that's not in the deeded lots.
That's the easiest thing to do.
And then the people, then you might have to have a smaller number of lots, but you can sell and they can do
Then
whatever they
everything
want with their...
Then we won't do the thing, because if I can't make enough money on this project, it doesn't make economical sense.
So I would have a problem calling it a natural state easement, just so it doesn't scare a buyer. That's fine.
We really have to make this work. The value of this, we don't have to make it work where it's detrimental to anybody or whatever, but we have to make this work because this is like a $500,000 gift. It's not whatever. It's like a $500,000 gift. If we get grants at some other time, you can use that money to do your buildings and stuff. But
we can't. I disagree with you. We can't. I'm not going to deviate from the norm because whatever we do with this piece of property, we got to do with everybody else's.
This is not so bad. There's
just
nothing.
Saying, whatever precedents we set here with this, we're setting ourselves up for the next.
I don't see any. If the heritage people were not even here, I would be.
I'm with you.
Okay.
And I want to get this 40 acres, but I'm not going.
We're not doing it because Ben's giving property. I'm not.
No,
I'm not. That's correct.
Let me make one more suggestion.
That would be the only reason I'm doing it.
What makes this piece of property unique, and it deviates what you're saying, is that the SAP #1 is this piece of property. This is a unique, especially has got a special conditions. So we're working within the SAP that exists. Other property do not have SAPs. Okay, so this is not something that other people are going to be hitting you up with. Okay?
Right, but maybe we need to get Cal up here to talk about this. The reason that whole SAP was established is because of the very sensitive nature of that land, and it was those natural areas and were set up to protect Wakulla Springs, and I don't think it was too high. So and we're talking about he's being this is a gift, but basically you're giving them land that you aren't going to be able to develop anyway, and we're reducing the natural state which protects the springs. So I think there's a huge price that's being paid by the county to approve this. That's my take on it. I really am not happy about the decrease in natural areas from 45% or 73 acres to 20% or just 32 acres, with much of that being inside deeded lots. And I'd actually like to see a limit to how much could be in the deeded lots. And then some, maybe people don't want that in their property, but we need to make sure that herbicide, pesticide, all that stuff isn't, that, the vegetation's not going to be gone, because all of that is going to harm Wakulla Springs.
And Ben, if this could be without being addressed your last time talking to us.
I'm going to leave it there. I'll let you make.
And Lynn, I agree, but the way I calculated it was putting that 40 acres that he's willing to donate back into that, we go back to the 72 acres. I agree with you. I'm not crazy about it being inside the deeded lots, but I can buy what Randy's saying with this
Natural
state easement. I'm fine with that. I can buy all that. But in the end, I'm not going to vote for it, Ben, until we get that agreement. That I want that written agreement. I can go ahead tonight and approve it to move forward, but in the end, when we get to that final plat, we've got to have all that.
Our county attorney would like to say a few words.
One thing, you may want to consider having the easement run in favor of the homeowners association to be established rather than the county. Take off a maintenance obligation on the county entirely.
That's fine.
I mean, I know that's how the park, for example, that whole middle area, I believe, is.
Yes.
As long as you know the issue.
I know.
People come in, hey, there's supposed to be a buffer zone here. They cleared all the way to their lot. What can you do about it? Well, we can't do anything about it. Now, if the same person had the complaint, they would complain to the homeowner association, and the homeowner association would decide if they wanted to do anything or not. We would have no dog in the fight. Is that correct?
Well, perhaps we could leave the language in the comp plan a little bit general on who's going to get the easement, and we can work out those issues and perhaps bring it. Who gets it?
If we're ultimate authority, that's fine. As long as we don't want to be a paper tiger.
So,
here's an easement, and then, well, hey.
Right now, the county does flowers. If there's any violation, the county has their authority to go in there and make it happen.
So, Commissioner Arts, are you okay with the item? You made the motion. Are you okay with the item moving forward tonight with the easement replaced with the natural state easement language?
Whatever we discussed.
Going through the homeowners association and coming back to final authority of the county, and that the final agreement will come back when it comes back before us next calendar year?
I think I'm going to withdraw my motion and let somebody else make
I'll make the
it.
motion for that then.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, as we just stated.
Hold on.
All right.
Okay, no, I've stated my position. I would like to have the input of the planning director. I would like to see it spelled out in writing, what the attorney's doing in terms of easements. I want to see the Heritage Village protected and that they're in agreement with whatever is in writing before we send this up to DCA. That's what
I think we're going to do that. Is that not what we're talking about?
No.
Not having
Sent to DCA
it's going to be
before it's finally approved.
Well, before we finally approve it, we're going to have the agreement. So
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It passes 4-1. Next up on our agenda is request board consideration of the proposed ordinance adopting text amendments to Section 5-25 of the Land Development Code pertaining to the Agriculture Zoning District.
Do we need to take a recess to get a picture?
Before we move into this item, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we will return. 10-minute recess.
We can move right here. We'll take that one, take a picture. How long will it take?
Order. We had started to call item 18, but if there's no objection, we're going to call item 20 first. Any objection? All right, then we will call item 20, which is application for final plat FP 11-04, Williams subdivision. Francis Williams is here.
I recommend that we conduct the final public hearing and approve application for final plat FP 1104, acceptance of the right-of-way deed and acceptance of the proposed resolution based upon the recommendation of the Planning Commission, the findings of fact and conclusion of law made by the Planning Commission, and any evidence submitted, and staff, whoever Heather the language is. Staff report.
Second.
Okay, so we also had to do a quick quasi-judicial process. So we've announced the item. There's been a motion and a second. County Attorney?
Thank you. In accordance with Section 24.01 of the County Code, each commissioner member should disclose all contact received from interested parties, their representatives, lobbyists, or any other third parties concerning this application, and any personal investigation or knowledge being relied upon. If any of you have received any ex parte communications regarding this item, now would be an appropriate time to disclose that in the record.
I haven't. Any communications?
I think I talked to you.
I spoke to Randy on the phone.
Okay.
This
Just asked him what to do, and he said call someone.
is item 20, or this is Aqua de Vida?
Yes.
Okay, well, I looked at the property and talked with staff. I didn't have any communications with anyone.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Anyone who is going to testify or provide any information on this application, please stand up and raise your right hand,
Mr.
including...
Sir. Mr. Williams, raise your...
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Staff can now go through the report.
I think the motion included the staff report in, to be filed.
Okay.
I don't need to hear it.
Do you have anything additional that you'd like to say?
I'm just here to answer a question, not that I've got any answer.
All right. Are there any additional public comments?
Well, I would like to hear the staff report. I think on every item we need to hear the staff report.
Okay. It's been...
Imagine that.
It's included in the motion, but if you'd like to ask specific questions or hear, I guess we can hear it if you'd like to hear it, Commissioner Arntz.
I think these decisions, this one is an admirable one, and I'm really enthusiastic about this proposal. So it's the best
Hallelujah.
one. It's the best one we have tonight. But I think for people, unless they've looked at the items, they have no idea what's going on. And I think it's.
I'm not going to argue with you about it.
We should have, for all of our planning and zoning items, the staff should do their presentation for the benefit of people who are watching now or who want to come back and watch and don't go look at the website at the item or whatever.
I appreciate what you're saying in general, but I think the purpose of this meeting is for us to debate and vote, not necessarily to educate the public on. I mean, it's a public meeting. This is public information. Anybody's welcome to see it, but again, I'm not going to fall on a sword about it. But
maybe Melissa can do it.
As long as we've read it, that's the important thing. We understand it. That's representative government work. But I'm not.
And the report is filed in the official minutes. Everything they were going to say is turned over for reading. But Melissa, is there anything you want to get in real quick? Key points.
If you like it's the board's pleasure, I could hit a couple of the highlights.
Real quick.
This application is requesting to replat 6 lots, and it would actually turn it into 4 lots. So we're seeing a reduction in density here by 2 lots. The entire property encompasses 1.07 acres, and it's located at the intersection of Mississippi Avenue and Chickasaw Street in Panacea. The Planning Commission considered this and voted unanimously to recommend approval. And while the survey was being done on this property, it was noted that a portion of the existing county-maintained right-of-way of Mississippi Avenue did lie partially within several of these lots. And working with the property owner, it was at his discretion that staff should prepare a dedication of that right-of-way to the county, and that is included in the motion this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional comments from the board? Then we have a motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes unanimously. Thank you, sir.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Turning back to item 18. I guess Melissa?
All right, this item requests the board's consideration of the proposed ordinance adopting text amendments to section 5-25 of the Land Development Code. This is for the agricultural zoning district description. This issue was discussed by the board back in August, where it was discussed how there's an internal discrepancy within the agricultural zoning district. There's a special requirement that says you're not to divide lots into less than 10-acre tracts. However, as you read further down within the district, it states that the allowable density is 1 unit per 5 acres, and that the minimum lot size is also 5 acres. This has caused a lot of confusion with citizens in the past, and whenever the board discussed this back in August, they were amenable to staff preparing this item and it moving forward. The advertisement for this public hearing appeared in the September 29th, 2011 edition of the Wakulla News. The Planning Commission considered this text amendment at their November 14th, 2011 meeting, and they voted unanimously to recommend denial. And let me back up for a second because I didn't explain exactly what the amendment includes. The direction at the time was to create internal consistency in the zoning district, that we would remove the special requirement that says you cannot divide the lots into less than 10 acres. So that would just leave the 5-acre requirement. And when the Planning Commission took this up at their last meeting, they had, like I mentioned, voted unanimously to recommend denial. This was after discussion about how someone may have purchased a 10-acre tract in an area that's all zoned ag and anticipate that it will remain at least a minimum of 10-acre tracts. Should this amendment go through and that requirement be removed, someone, if the land use would also allow it and paved road access be available, any other requirements be met, then they could go in and start splitting up their property into 5-acre tracts. And there was a concern about how that would affect people's use of their property, what they anticipated for the area. There was also a concern that it could negatively affect the tax revenue coming in if 5-acre tracts would be able to get a agricultural exemption.
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance amending section 525 of LDC pertaining to the agricultural zoning district.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Okay.
I want to understand this 5-acre. Can they get agricultural exemption?
No, it's just a beat house. I speak to this because I know personally my brother has 6 acres in Smith Creek. The only way he was able to get ag is because he could prove it was for beekeeping business. The rule of thumb is 10 acres or more before they'll even look at it for ag exemption. So that was, yes, the question I had. And also, you can't even do this unless the future land use is there. If it's future land use ag, you can't have a lot smaller than 20 acres. For example, where I live, it's future land use ag, so I don't have to worry about somebody cutting out a 5-acre tract or even a 10-acre tract.
Well, what did the... I appreciate that. I'd like to hear from the attorney to tell me the same thing.
You talking about the ad valorem agricultural
Yes.
for ad valorem taxation?
Yes.
In order to do that, it does have to be in an allowable zoning district, but they're looking at the use of the property, not strictly the zoning of the property, and they're going to look at things like, is it producing income from agriculture?
But if it's got,
Look at the quantity and size, but this by no means automatically would qualify 5-acre tracts for an ag.
Okay, but if I buy one of those 5 acres and ask for an ag exemption, and it's got pine trees growing on it, could I get it?
You're going to have to, you would have to show that, and that would be a question for the property appraiser, obviously, but you'd have to show that you're actually doing it for bona fide ag, commercial ag, not just your own personal use.
So it sounds like the answer is yes, you could get an ag exemption if you had pine trees growing on it. That's all I'm asking you.
You could potentially, but you could potentially get it whether it's 5 acres or 10 acres.
But and I think one of the things that was a good point, if you don't, that Heather made to me earlier, is it could be zoned commercial, and you plant pine trees, you could get you'll still get the agriculture exemption.
Well, what did the planning commission not understand?
We do have a representative who's filed a card from the P&Z.
Okay.
Mr. Chuck Hess.
Good. Chuck, tell us what you didn't. Please tell me what you didn't understand, or maybe you did understand and we don't understand.
Okay. As I remember the discussion that night, this only occurs if the future land use is RR5, so it can go to a 5-acre parcel. Well, as far as we're concerned in the planning commission, if it's going to be a 5, if you have agriculture and you want to go to 5-acre parcels, change it to your change your zoning, because you have the right to go to RR5 right away, and we're going to go like that. Say, yes, okay, go to RR5, okay? Because that's where the future land use is. If you want to keep your agricultural qualification, okay, then keep it as, the 10-acre parcel. You can't break a 10-acre agricultural parcel down to a 5-acre agricultural parcel. And I don't care if I have a place that has 5 acres, you do this and have 5 acres, and I'm growing chickens for money, okay? Why can't I go and get an agricultural exemption? I'm selling eggs. It's income. It ain't even a lot of income, but it's income, okay? You can show a really nice business model with that. This is the kind of thing you could have, and you have a whole bunch of 5-acre parcels in RR5 that you could say, I want to get my parcel zoned to agriculture because I can, get my exemption. This is all real and reasonable, and could occur on an easy basis if you approve this thing. If they want to go to 5 acres, take it to RR5. Not a problem. Because of the
Were you finished? I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you,
I'm
Chuck.
planning to vote against this, and some of my reasons are, I think we need internal consistency, but I think we should be going the other direction and having everything be consistent with the 10. And I know that creates problems for what's already in place, but there's a lot more to be developed. And I heard an expert in agriculture at University of Florida who was talking about, first time I had heard the term rural sprawl. You hear a lot about urban sprawl, but he was talking about agricultural land getting cut up into smaller and smaller segments to the point where there isn't viable agriculture. And especially when you're looking into the long-term future and sustainability, there's growing pressure for locally grown food. And I just think rather than going from the 10 to 5, we should be looking at trying to go from the 5 to the 10.
My position on it is if the future land use allows it, and if somebody wants to cut out 5 acres for their kid, I think they should be allowed to do it. The agricultural zoning allows 5-acre lots, clearly states it right in there, and in fact, if you had 10 acres, and let's correct me if I'm wrong. All right, is that my time? If you had 10 acres, you could still put 2 houses on it, correct?
That's correct.
You could put 2 houses on it. You just can't go to the bank and get a loan to do it because you couldn't legally cut it out. So,
but you're less likely to have people come in and I think you're taking agricultural land that could be used for agriculture, and it's predisposing it for residential development. That's how I see it.
What if it's their property and they don't want to use it for agriculture? It is their property. So anyway,
okay.
That's my position. Is I support getting rid of the exemption or exception, whatever it is.
And the planning commission was unanimous. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Unanimous. Again, they don't come through very often with unanimous.
I called my guy and asked him why, and basically he said that he thought Melissa was advocating for it, which I talked to her about that.
Staff did recommend approval to the Planning Commission. That was the initial staff recommendation, because we get to explain it to people at the front counter and try and help them understand why the bank says we have to cut out a portion of this property for you to be able to build your house, and we have to unfortunately tell them, I'm sorry, we can't allow that.
And that's why I like it. I wish the Planning Commission had. Did they understand that? Was that explained to them at the Planning Commission? Was that debated at all about somebody wanted to carve out 5 acres? And
Billy told me it boiled down to, here's your 2 choices. Either go in and change, like Miss Arts wants to do, change it to 10-acre lots, or basically leave it alone. That's kind of what Billy was telling me, is the 2 decisions really. And they decided just to leave it alone instead of changing it to 10-acre lots. Either one of us would clear the code up.
That is where the discussion ended, with those 2 choices.
I'll take a second. One of the things, and according to what Heather explained to me, is that, again, this classification, it doesn't have to be an agriculture zoning district to claim agriculture exemption. It just has to be used for agricultural purposes, correct?
In an allowable.
In an allowable way for profit. This just because my planning is only I got a phone call at 9 o'clock tonight at this meeting from my P&Z guy trying to explain to me what happened. I have a lot of respect for him and I appreciate what he does, Mr. Brett Hammond. So I was just trying to, and I haven't had the chance to call him back to talk about it again. But after talking with the county attorney, it sounded to me like the best way was to move forward with this change.
I think that the bottom line is that merely being in an agricultural zoning does not entitle you to the agricultural ad valorem classification. And that's, there are statute, chapter 193 contains all the requirements that the property appraiser has to look at before he determines that they're entitled to be taxed based upon their classification of land as agriculture.
But I thought one of the concerns was just that people buy 10-acre parcels thinking that the whole neighborhood or that whole area is going to stay 10-acre parcels, and then people start dividing it up into 5 acres. Was that not one of the... It was my understanding.
I wasn't there, so
that is one of the concerns that was expressed.
I think that's one of the concerns, but also Chuck said that anybody who brought it up, they split it if they asked to make the change.
And also,
I'm just repeating back.
That same logic would apply to 20-acre tracts.
Yeah.
If I had 20-acre tract and like where I'm at, my neighbor's got 20 acres, he could come in and divide it into 2 10-acre lots if it wasn't future land use ag, which it is. So theoretically, if he changed the future land use on it, he could divide it into why wouldn't I use the same argument? Well, hey, I thought everybody's going to have the same size property as me. Why is he getting to divide his? So I understand what you're saying. I bought 10. Why is he able to cut his? But that argument could be expanded exponentially.
That's true. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Moving on to item 19. This is the request board ratification and adoption of unrecorded zoning ordinances historically approved. Need a motion?
I'll make a motion to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the ratification of unrecorded zoning ordinances based on the recommendation of the Planning Commission and the findings of fact, and include your law made by the board, and any evidence submitted at the hearing hereon, and I'm going to adopt the staff report. I hope we don't need to...
Well, I second.
All right. Pass it over to the county attorney.
It's 34.
This is also the time this is a quasi-judicial matter. If you have any ex parte communications that you have heard from any third parties, including the applicant, their representatives, lobbyists, regarding this item, now would be a time to disclose those in the record. Anyone?
Spoke with staff.
I have none.
They're old, so I wouldn't think you guys would have any, but just wanted to put it out there. If there's anyone here to testify to this matter, please, you're still sworn. Thank you.
All right, we have already accepted the report. Is there a need for any additional report? Just want to give a brief synopsis of what these are real quick. It's a 3 sentences.
Staff noted during the conversion of the zoning maps from paper format to a GIS format that there were a total of 21 zoning ordinances that had failed to be recorded with the clerk of court and the secretary of state. And so this is a cleanup item to ratify the adoption by previous boards of those 21 zoning ordinances.
All right. Any further discussion by the members of the board?
Some of these were as recent as 2005, and I just want to make sure we have put into place whatever procedures to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yes, absolutely. There have been procedures put into place to stop this from occurring.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving into general business, we have a request for board approval of a change order from Utah for the force main project. And we have, according to my notes, Lane Lucas is presenting, but I guess...
Cleve and Lane.
Okay.
Then we got to eat now.
Yes, sir. Good evening. This is 2 change orders with Allen's Excavation. If y'all will remember, our last amendment to the loan agreement with DEP, we left money available in that loan agreement to rebuild MedArt. These two change orders will facilitate that. Due to the time since we bid this job, we bid it last January, I believe, so it's been almost a year. We've had some cost escalations and whatnot. Through the negotiation with the contractor, and the reason that we have two change orders to execute at the same time, the cost for the proposed work exceeded what we had set aside with DEP. The contractor has agreed to just charge the county for the labor to install all the parts, and the county will direct purchase the materials. In doing so, we avoid sales tax on all those materials. We're talking about, $300,000 or $237,000 with sales tax and contractor markup on those materials. So the first change order is the total price. The second change order takes out all of the material and just changes the price of the contract by the labor to install the material, and the county will direct purchase the material.
I make a motion to approve change orders 3 and 4 from Allen's Excavation to MedArt Lift Station project.
I have a question.
We need a second?
Second.
All right, we have a question.
Okay, what's our increased cost of labor?
The total adjustment after both of them?
Yeah.
$75,408.
So that's the difference in the increased cost of labor.
No, it's an increase. And that $75,000 is going to get added into our loan agreement. Is that correct?
That's correct. And
the $237,000 that we're spending on materials, how's that being paid for?
the county will pay that, and then we can reimburse that. It will be added also to the agreement.
Okay. So it's really that the loan, we're increasing the amount that we're taking out in the loan by $300,000.
Right, $327,000, which is what we had planned for originally. Actually, we're a little bit less than that. The total amount will go up $312,000, and we have budgeted $327,000 in the agreement with DEP as it exists today.
I got a question for Cleve.
I just want to say I think it's a good idea that we're saving money on the purchase of materials.
I agree with the saving. Cleve, everything that's designed into everything designed in it is necessary. It's not overkill. It is designed for future upgrade, odor control, because there's been an odor issue out there for years. Yes. It's right next to a school. Is it going to have a generator?
Yes.
Standby generator?
Generator, odor control. It's upgrading the structure to a fiberglass structure, which we're going to try to make as a standard going forward in the county. We have we're very comfortable with the process that we got from the vendors, because we've been researching this, because we've already had to coat the inside of the MedArt lift station because the sulfide's eating off the concrete, and so we've done lots of research, and that's why we brought this to the board in conjunction with the Jerry Moore lift station project.
All right, you'll name the building after him. Now, all the sewer in Crawfordville and Panacea goes to this lift station, and we've been lucky. If it ever failed, that whole school. You don't know what's going on in this school, but there would be a lot of raw sewage on the ground at a school. So, the generator, we needed it. I requested it 10, 15 years ago when I was here, and the odor control has been an ongoing issue.
I'm going to still ask a question. I'm going to ask a question again. You have an increase in the cost of the supplies, and we're offsetting that, but we're going to buy them to offset the sales tax and markup and so forth.
Yes, sir.
And how much more is that going to cost us at that level? Do we pay less or we pay more?
$312,408.
We're actually saving $65,000.
Let me try to explain that.
Mr. Moore,
that's the number that you're looking for.
I think the number is if we just execute change order number 3, which is to let the contractor do everything, the total cost of that work would be $377,000. If we go this route, the county is basically saving $65,000.
Get it done on budget.
All right, that's what I'm talking about.
Does that?
We're just trying to save you money.
Right.
All right, any additional discussion? We have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We're going to move on to general business item number 22. I'm going to take a moment. If you plan to speak on any agenda item tonight, make sure you fill out a card before the item is brought up. Item 22, request board approval of joint participation agreement, JPA, with the Florida Department of Transportation for the runway lighting at the Wakulla County Airport, and approval of resolution and budget amendment.
Motion to approve the joint participation agreement for runway lighting at the airport and approve the resolution and budget amendment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any, don't have any cards on this one. Any discussion from the board?
My question is, does this go along with the airport plan, the long-range plan of the airport? I want to ask that. And I want to make sure that the board understands that the lights that exist there now will be taken out by the guy who owns them. He called me today and said that he would be moving quickly to take those out. So,
Commissioner,
they're his, they're not ours.
It does conform with the airport plan. This was originally money set aside to design and construct a runway, but the funding was reduced. So,
but I thought, Ken, we were supposed to move the airstrip over and do some other things. I just want to make sure. I don't know enough about it. I want somebody to just tell me that it's in accordance with the airport plan, and I want to make sure y'all understand that those lights that exist down there now are privately owned, and they're going to come out rather quickly.
In other words,
well, I think that's what. I'm sorry.
You don't want to come back 2 years from now and just tear these lights right back up.
Right, exactly.
I agree with that. What is the answer?
Well, the long-term plan is, very long-term, is to expand the size of the runway. I don't know when that funding is going to come down through DEP. They did not approve us for the construction of the design of the runway. So what they did allocate us for, knowing that the lighting was an emergent issue, we changed the project to fund lighting at the airport because we knew Mr. Pepe was interested in taking out the lighting down there, and that would be detrimental to everybody trying to use the airport. I know Mr. Foltz has pointed out, and he'll probably speak on another issue that's come about with the lighting. I'm not clear me up, Steve, when you get up there. But it's kind of perfect timing that this money has come along to fix that issue. So to answer your questions, we might have to replace the lighting if we do ever get to the point where we expand the runway and complete the LAP. But ALP, sorry. But right now, this is pretty much the funding that we're getting from DEP.
Foreseeable future.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Exactly.
Okay.
I keep coming on this airport. Are we going to be lighting an airport? We're putting lighting in. Are we going to light that every day, every night, or of the night? Are we going to? I don't
think
lights?
the design will be probably switched on when the pilots need it, but I don't think it's going to be consistently lit.
Okay.
Yes,
sir.
On an as-needed basis.
Okay, well, that won't be very often. Our bill will be very low.
We have two citizens to speak. I apologize. Mr. Chuck Hess.
I'm just amazed. Is this county money we're spending on this? I'm hoping that it's not, and I'm hoping we're not paying for the bill for that lighting too. It just doesn't make any sense. This is mostly for some small segment of our population that actually has planes and does flying, and for most of the people in the county, this is not something that's important, and we shouldn't be spending our money on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Steve Foltz.
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Foltz, 35 Monocoop Circle. First, I would just like to express my appreciation to the board and to staff, and particularly Tim Barden, for making this opportunity available to Wakulla County. This is a $75,000 no match. There's no in-kind, no cash match. This is a 100% grant from FDOT. These funds come from the fuel use tax that's applied. And there are more projects that are earmarked for this airport that are equally as attractive, 100% grant funding. There's no county funds at all involved here. The lighting system that's currently in place, the rotating beacon is inoperative. There's been a NOTAM issued. I posted it about a month and a half ago, so the rotating beacon is currently out of service, and the lighting system that's currently there, to be quite honest, is very ragged. It's very old. It's been piecemealed, and so this is a tremendous safety improvement. As far as the cost for turning on the lights, it is a pilot-controlled lighting, so the lights are only turned on by the pilot when he's either arriving or departing the airport, and he does that by keying the mic X number of times on a particular frequency. In terms of the ALP, it is compatible with the ALP. FDOT would not have approved the funds if it was not compatible with the ALP. If in the future years down the road the additional funding comes to move the runway, they would probably have to be pulled out, but it's not that big a deal. I believe they'll probably place the rotating beacon in such a place that it would not be relocated. That's the tall unit. The rest of the lights may have to be shifted, but it's not that big a deal to move the lights, to be quite honest with you. I think this is just a phenomenal opportunity. I can see no downside to it. It's a big improvement for safety, and I would just encourage the board to approve this, and let's move forward with our new committee and continue improving this airport. I would also like to address this concept that this is just for a small group of people. Airports are economic engines. We talk about driving the economy. This airport, if it were to be for instance, seafood destination where you would fly in, and there's several throughout the country, Kennebunkport, Maine, several others. Once you get that reputation of this is the place to come to get your fresh seafood, it could be a huge economic engine, and it's very short-sighted to think that this airport is just for a small group of people. Perry has a huge airport. Franklin County has a wonderful airport, 2 wonderful airports. To think that an airport, just because it's used by some folks, that it's not an economic engine, I think is just short-sighted. So I do appreciate all of the support. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Arts?
And some people touched on one of the concerns that I had when I first read through this item, and I confirmed that there hasn't been any decision made yet about what lights are going to be purchased, and I do want to find out who is the utility provider and try to find out to get the most energy efficient lighting that we can. And also there are people who are concerned about other issues pertaining to lights. So I think we need to be careful moving forward with that, but it's on my radar to have the Energy Committee look at that. Do you know who the provider is? Is it Talquin or Progress?
Isn't that part of this county?
Progress? Okay.
That's part of the county's Progress.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any additional comments from the board? We have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously. Moving into commissioner agenda items. The first commissioner agenda item is a commissioner agenda item from me. This one is requesting a workshop on economic development. Earlier this year, I proposed having quarterly workshops where we try and bring our community together and talk about some future planning. We decided not to do that, but a big aspect of those goals, what I wanted to see come about it was talk about some economic development opportunities we might have in the community. I'd like to bring, I've given a list. If there's other people you'd like to see invited, please just let myself and the county administrator know of organizations that part of their goal is to promote jobs coming to Wakulla County. I'd like to have a workshop where we get them together, talk about what they're doing for our community, let us hear so that we can make sure that they're being successful, make the most of our limited resources, and reduce redundancy as much as possible. And hopefully maybe get some good ideas to come out of there about how we can help make this community work better. I'd appreciate a motion and a second.
I move to direct... What? Okay. To direct staff to schedule a workshop on economic development. Did you have a date in mind, Alan?
January is, I'm being told January is available.
We're going to have a workshop on something anyway, so I'll second.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Any additional discussion?
I'd like to see your people who are going to be attending that sometime.
It's in the
item.
Is it? Okay.
The people who I've suggested inviting currently, the organizations, include the Economic Development Council, the Tourist Development Council, the Industrial Development Authority, Workforce Plus, Opportunity Florida, Florida's Great Northwest, and Tallahassee Economic Development Council. If there's an additional group you'd like to see featured, please let staff know, and I'll try and make sure they're invited.
And we can bring in individuals also.
And it's all of our workshops are open to the public.
Yeah, but if the individual that I'm thinking about is not a member of any of these groups, he's still welcome.
To do a presentation on what they're doing to develop.
Just to do discussion.
Citizens, of course, all citizens are welcome.
Yeah.
So yes, your individual is invited.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. The next item is approval of commissioner appointments. We haven't moved forward with that. That'll be coming back in January. You should be getting documents from Jessica, and it just goes over what we did last time. It let us know who or what organizations you are interested in serving, what committees. Tab 23 is a request board approval of a resolution to restore Amtrak service on the Sunset Limited route. The city of Tallahassee just passed this resolution. I added this to our agenda fairly late in support of reopening the Tallahassee train station, and I wanted to join them in asking for support and passing it on to people.
Move to approve the proposed resolution supporting restoring the Sunset Limited route Amtrak service and provide a copy to our state and federal elected officials.
Second.
Excellent. Thank you both. We have two citizens to speak on this. Bob Danzy.
I have a quick question, though. But didn't we do one of these? I remember Commissioner Kessler bringing this item to the board a couple years ago. Is this, Jessica, do you have a so it's a new?
Won't hurt to do it
Okay.
We're even more resolved.
With our new board. Continuing to be resolved. Bob Danzy.
I don't know if I can do this, but is that going to get the Amtrak coming back through Tallahassee stopping? What will this accomplish?
They're passing the resolution. No, there has been some efforts, and I think the next speaker is going to talk about some of the stuff going on around to try and bring it back to Tallahassee. That's the goal.
I'd be very excited and support you in any way I can, whatever I can do to get the thing where it comes back through Tallahassee, the Amtrak.
All right, thank you, sir. And Bart Biebler.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Brock, for taking this issue before the Commission. Yes, on November 23rd, the City of Tallahassee Commission passed a resolution, and not just a resolution, but really agreed to a campaign, and that's why it's important to do it again, that we really want a number of local governments, ideally all of the stranded cities along the route. Let me back up just a second. Of course, this service went out when Hurricane Katrina damaged the tracks. So we're talking 2005 is what caused this. And we're talking the route, the Sunset Limited route, was the only truly transcontinental route across America. And that was stopped by Hurricane Katrina. Well, the damage was repaired, freight service restored in 2006, but Amtrak has not restored passenger rail service to that stretch. So now, if you want to travel from Jacksonville to New Orleans, you get to go up to North Carolina first. So a 550-mile trip is now a 1,350-mile trip. So that whole corridor along the Gulf Coast includes now 13 stranded stations, including Pensacola, Mobile, Biloxi, Chipley, Lake City, and this whole region can't even get on the system. So, it's not just that you can't get to New Orleans or Jacksonville. You can't get on the system unless you drive to Atlanta or to Jacksonville. So this is an enormous, I think it's a national disgrace, actually. I mean, essentially what's happened is Katrina has been allowed to now enable the federal government to save money because it's just decided it won't restore that service. So instead of finishing the job of Katrina restoration and restoring the service, they fixed the tracks, but they haven't restored the service. And amazingly, just last week, it's been announced that Amtrak is going to establish new service between Jacksonville and Miami. So there's, great news, great news. I mean, I'm all for it. In fact, that will enhance the ridership once the Jacksonville, New Orleans, L.A. route is reestablished. But it's amazing to me that brand new service can be established when we haven't even restored the service that got knocked out by Hurricane Katrina. So this really is not just a resolution, it's really a campaign, and the City of Tallahassee and others are being urged to write to all the stranded cities, and we want to make more and more noise. We need to talk to Congress folks. If you're going to have a legislative meeting coming up here with state members, urge them to do something about it. What's the governor's office doing about it? We need everybody's, insisting that this is long overdue. It's really an unfinished business of Hurricane Katrina restoration.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for your support.
Any additional discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Commissioner Arts, item 24A.
Okay, the Wakulla County Coalition for Youth, in collaboration with the Capital YMCA, is preparing a grant application to the Ounce of Prevention Fund of Florida, and they're hoping to get up to $300,000 for a 3 to 5 year grant that would fund mainly programming, but it could fund some other things at the community center to support the Y and offer some things that the Y doesn't. And they just asked for a letter of support. So I move that we approve the letter of support and direct the chairman, or authorize the chairman to sign it.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. Lastly, we have Commissioner Merritt. You have an item?
Yes. Recently, the speed limit on Shayville Highway got changed down from 25 to 35, and basically I want to change it back, and I want to follow this.
No, 45.
45. I want to change it back to 45.
You said 25.
Oh, I'm sorry. We commissioned this speed limit back in study in 2000. It's based on the geometric design of the road, not, they did take into account right away and stuff like that, but they took a inclinometer or went around the curves to see what was safe going around them. They went on several roads, and I think it's too restrictive now. This study called to lower it to 45 at Trice Lane, I think, from 55 down to 45. Now, let me just give you an example of how there's not a lot of consistency. If you get on Spring Creek Highway and head toward Shell Point, and you come up to Martin Luther King about 100 yards before it, there's a sign that lowers to 45. Fine, no problem. You get past it, 100 yards later, the sign raises it back to 55. It's 55 all the way through 98. It doesn't drop down to 45 when you approach 98. But if you come down Martin Luther King towards Spring Creek Highway, and I'm just using these as an example of how speed limits get changed over the years, it goes from 45 about a mile or two before the intersection, then goes down to 35. And I just think we need to follow our study, set the speed limits at that, and if there's a engineering-based, justifiable reason to lower them, then fine.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
You have a second? Discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little history, as well as I remember it. When the daycare was put in on Shadeville, there was opposition from some of the community people and people who used that road, and they really wanted a turn lane. And the 35 mile per hour speed limit was a compromise, and it was, from my way of thinking, it was part of our approval of that child care center. So to go back now and change it, it doesn't seem right. And
I don't think it's right, though, to punish the people that drive on that road because there's...
Well, hang on. But that's not the only reason. The other consideration was that we're going to be developing the community center, and hopefully it'll be having lots of kids walking, riding their bikes, going to the community center. And it was also in anticipation of all that pedestrian and bike traffic also that we thought it made sense. So I'm comfortable where it is. And that's an outdated, that's 12 years old study.
The geometric design of the road is not changed. If we want to lower the speed limit when you approach an intersection, fine. But It's a speed trap. I mean, there was a state trooper sitting at the apartment complex the other day, and everybody I talked to, I had a woman today that I've known for years, like, if you do anything, change that speed limit back. I mean, it would be safest to set the speed limit at 25 miles an hour the whole county. That would make it a lot safer, but there's a trade-off between, what's realistic and what's safety. If those kids at the daycare running out on the road, somebody needs to be arrested at the daycare.
Commissioner Stewart?
Well, it was all the cars turning in to the daycare and coming out.
It's 55 in front of Happy
Commissioner
Time.
Stewart?
It's been there for years.
Thank you. The community traffic safety team recommended this strongly that we change it. And that's a group of people that, Randy, you were on that, just like I have been for years. They suggested that we change it, and that's what really drove the thing. And I agree with Lynn, things have changed in 12 years. And that Trice Lane is almost used as much as 319 for cut-through traffic. So there's a ton of traffic dumping out on that road, you know that. And the community center is there now. There's been 2 businesses added there. That subdivision, that big multi-family subdivision across there has been built since that study. Another subdivision just east of that has been built in there. So, I mean, all those dynamics have changed. I hear what you're talking about, but what's 10 miles an hour? I mean, you could say, well, what's 10 miles an hour faster or slower? You're right. The community traffic safety team is a team that we put into place to tell us what they suggest we do things at, and that's what I'm over.
You and I served on it together. You knew if I was still on it, I'd be fighting this tooth and nail.
Well, that's because you like to drive fast.
No, I don't. I like to be realistic.
All right, we have
no rhyme or reason.
We have one citizen who's put in a card, Mr. Bob Danzig.
Thank you. Bob Danzy is my name. And thank you, Randy, for some common sense in this issue. Mike, I'm sorry to disagree. You know we're pals, but you and Lynn, you're all wet on this deal. Thank you.
Okay. And I appreciate that. And I'll tell you what I think of you later.
Well, and I think, I'm going to get lumped in with them because I think this choice was a good choice. So it's going to, all in favor, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It fails 3-2. Moving into county attorney items?
Nothing this evening.
County administrator items?
Nothing this evening.
What calls about this thing garbage service?
I've actually had a lot of calls about it too. Discussion item by commissioners. Commissioner Stewart?
None.
Commissioner Merritt?
Bridge fence. I looked at the bid today. Apparently the design right now is for a chain link fence. I really don't like that at all. There are other, I looked on the internet, took 15 minutes. You can find 4x4 square, like hog wire almost, but they're a little stronger than hog wire, that wouldn't block the view of the river. The road we're going down now is apparently a full chain link fence with not concertina wire, but barbed wire on top of it. I don't think that's, we want the kids to stop jumping off the bridge, but I'd like to be where you could see, be as unobtrusive as possible. And if you all agree with me, I kind of like to direct staff to move down that road instead of just a prison security fence on the river. But the reason I'm bringing this up because I looked at the bid with Virginia, and the design right now is a chain link fence. I can't make a motion.
Can't make a motion.
But I think staff direction, if the board all agrees.
If we can find something that looks better,
yes.
But
why can't we put that out horizontal instead of up this way?
Because they will climb out on it, Jerry, and jump off that fence.
We'll have a diving board.
If you lay it out there like that over the side of that bridge, they're going to run out there and use that as a springboard to jump in that river.
If you use a cattle fence, they can't walk out of cattle. Well, they probably can, but it's not going to be very nice.
But my basic point is there's all kind of fencing options out there besides just ugly chain link fence. If it was a foot by foot square, a kid ain't gonna crawl through that and jump off.
If y'all can find something that looks, let's just get it done before next summer. That's all I'm asking.
We're proceeding down this road, and I'd just like to see us stop.
I agree with you, and I apologize. I said I would talk to some people who worked with parks, and one of them was just here Saturday, and I completely forgot. So I didn't realize we were going out to bid on it already.
We approved it to go out to bid at the last meeting. Well, and just so we're talking about it, I'm probably still not going to really support this idea when it finally comes through, but we'll see. And everybody else, I know those.
I'd like to go with some different options, maybe. events, we'll just look at it.
I say just take the bridge out.
Is that all your discussion items?
Yep.
I want to thank my pastor, Jan Reinhardt, for coming out and saying the prayer at this meeting. We're going to start having, I'm going to try and bring back preachers at the meeting, so if you're a preacher or a person of faith who'd like to say a prayer at one of our meetings, just feel free to reach out to me or make suggestions. Commissioner Moore, do you have any discussion items?
I have none.
Commissioner?
I thought you wanted to talk about, sorry, I wasn't supposed to remind you.
About what?
What we pushed back to discussion.
From the citizens,
You
we
had
heard you want to
questions
talk
for
about the bail bonds?
Melissa.
Bail bondsman in the neighborhood by the sheriff's department.
No, it was the paying twice.
Oh, paying twice for development, okay.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do want to talk about that. How can we get around that? How can we?
Currently, that fee is because we don't have a, currently the way it's set up is the developer brings in a traffic study, and we hire an engineer to verify the traffic study.
Why?
That's a question we're going to do that. And that's been concern in the past. We've had questions from it's crazy. Therefore, that's the reason.
Because you don't have the expertise on staff.
Let's just accept that the traffic study comes from a professional, right? Why are we questioning the professionals? If they meet the criteria of being a professional, and that's what they do every day, why do we want to just add another layer and question that?
And that did used to be the way that those items were processed. Whenever that would come in, say for instance for the comp plan amendment, it would include a traffic analysis, and if there were questions raised, the board would go back and discuss, well, hey, we want a turn lane here. As a condition of approval, you're going to have a turn lane. So that was the way it was processed for quite some time. But in an effort to ensure that we were meeting concurrency requirements and not exceeding the level of service standards on the roadways, and also just like there's concurrency requirements for other things as well, those reviews were put in place. But I agree, there's pros and cons to it.
Let's have a list of people maybe that we approve to do the study, or approve whatever, if we can do that, and then we set the parameters on what they need to give us,
And there are standards that we request
and then
for them to follow.
Let's do that, and let's get rid of some of the...
We'll look at it and bring something back.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if there's been history of problems. I'd like to know what the problems were, and then also, how much is the fee for the review about?
It depends. For the transportation review, it's anywhere from $160 to, I think, a little over $1,000. The stormwater review is substantially more expensive. I believe it starts at $600 or so and goes up to a couple thousand.
I think it's probably a product of the boom, regulations instituted during the boom, and that sounds like what it was. We'll take a look at it.
This is a stormwater review?
No, traffic study review.
You said there was a stormwater review also.
There's a transportation concurrency and a stormwater review application, both with associated fees.
I know back in the day, I was to review sewer plans, not so much stormwater.
So we got sewer. We take care of the sewer internally.
Let's just get away from duplication, and we can set the parameters that the first guy needs to follow, and then he gives us the information we need. We don't have to come back and run it through somebody else at an additional expense.
Okay. Commissioner Arts?
I'll miss seeing y'all until January.
Yeah, happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, have a wonderful holiday season.
Right before we close, we earlier tonight we did not pass the updated events ordinance. We'll probably bring it back, minus all the alcohol language, because it does need to be updated. Just something to be aware of in the future. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Meeting is adjourned. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas.